good evening everyone. Welcome aboard to another crazy stream here on the American Rail Club. I hope you all can hear me loud and clear. We're getting everything on the road, on time, well, on the tracks. We don't want to be on the road right now at this point. It's kind of expensive right now. As you can kind of see, the national average for the first time in a pretty long time has hit $5. And it's worse for you guys if you have to get premium gas for your car. But joined by me over here, we have that guy from Belgium. It's Ruben van Miserow.
Hell yeah. I'm here finally, again.
It's been a while, but yeah, he's our engineer here on the American Rail Club, even though he's from Belgium, but he, in our hearts, is American to us, so he can chime in whenever he can, and tell us about what's going on over there, and I guess some of the ways that also Europe has gone over here. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy, guys. It's been nuts, and we have, I mean, there's going to be a lot to talk about, and it's probably going to be a pretty long stream, because I've been writing notes upon notes in the last week or so to try to put this in a sort of logical way of why the automobile has destroyed America. Okay, and I know it's a very grandiose statement. You know, people are saying you can't say that the car has destroyed America, can you? And to that I say, yes. and it's not that the automobile has completely, you know, is the sole entire reason, but it is definitely one of the biggest nefarious underlying reasons as to why the United States economy is the way it is. And we'll definitely go in there, but let's go ahead and see who's in the comments over on YouTube. No, Butler, yes, people have been saying the car's been a cancer in America for years. Hello, Roman. Hello, Dolphin Ball. Hello, Grambo. Hello, Ethan. Darius, welcome back aboard. Ned, Clarissa, Renell, Starforce, Ricardo. Alright, it is looking like a pretty nice stream so far. But yeah, this is what gas prices are going to. And it's just been getting worse and worse. I mean, for me, I'm glad that right now I got a gig that I can be able to work from home and be able to do a lot of stuff from there, because it was really killing me when I was driving from work in my car. Again, as I've complained multiple times, I mean, I'm not complaining, but I'm frustrated because my car it's a pretty nice car. It's a Lexus IS 300. It takes only premium gasoline, and I wouldn't put anything else in there because of the engine that it's got. It's a 2JZ engine, and Toyota is never going to make those ever again, unfortunately. But yeah, $6! $6 for premium gas. It took $80 to fill my tank, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and it's starting to hit it's been hitting people's pocketbooks, but everything has been inflating because at least the entire American economy is all based on oil. Okay, everything has to follow the oil cycle, and we'll show you exactly where that goes, because everybody's talking about, but the production from 2020 and the oil prices went down, like Wendover and all these other people. That, again, it's fair that when you have a larger channel, you need to be able to get in a safe viewpoint. Let's put it that way. But here at the American Rail Club, we're not here to mince words. We're here to tell you the truth, and we're here to advocate for what works, because this is logical. Okay, the American automobile has destroyed a lot.
I mean, if you want to know about something very interesting, you guys are saying, oh my god, $6 for gas? That's incredibly high. I just want to share the European perspective. I think around now in Belgium and Europe in general, we're nearing $9 to $10 for a gallon of gas.
It's just
so, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, and we'll be there pretty quickly. I mean, some places in California are seeing $7, $8. Some places on the West Coast, in New York. Let me see, $9 according to Geeky Lawrence here. Gas is $9 in Canada and even higher in Europe. Yeah, well, Canada is pretty tied to the United States also, so, you know, we can't say that we're alone in all this and that everybody else isn't hurting. But at least in other places, like let's say in Europe, I mean, Ruben, do you have to pay for gas?
Yeah, sadly enough. I mean, I don't have a car, so I'm lucky, because years ago I was like, nah, I don't need a car. We have good public transportation. Kinda, I hope. But yeah, I mean, I know one of my best friends actually sold his car because he just couldn't pay for gas anymore. It was just getting ridiculously expensive.
Yeah, it's insane. That's the entire thing. It's that the whole economy has to go against the automobile. I mean, look at this here. It's not just paying for gas. Tire prices are going up. Sumitomo Falcon prices are going up July the 1st. Bridgestone prices are going up in the U.S. and Canada. Yokohama prices are going up. I mean, it is just going more and more. And like we've covered before, the diesel supply has been running out in places like in the Northeast as well. The East Coast sees record low of diesel inventories. And we can talk a little bit about, why it is affecting that. But, here's the thing, guys, okay? This was American life over here, if you can see on the screen. For those of you in the Discord on the stage, if you are following the stream, it's probably a little bit behind, but you can be able to see this over here. So, right here in the middle of the screen is a picture of what used to be Detroit. This was Detroit in the late 1910s, early 1920s. And you can see they have a very mixed mode of transportation. You see people walking the streets. You do see cars, okay? And again, we're not against... Let's put it very clear in this channel, okay? We're not for the total abolition of the automobile. That's a very stupid point to take, okay? We're here for very sensible, logical, common sense transportation and transit, okay? But as you see over here, you see people walking. And they look a heck of a lot nicer, right? I miss the times where people used to wear jackets, where you used to dress up, have hats on and stuff like that. Now everybody's dressed like, I don't even want to go there. It's terrible. What was it you were saying, Ruben, that this was, if they were called this age later on in history, what would they call it?
I would call this the age of insanity. We purposely started destroying our own infrastructure. Not even America. I mean, we got Americanized. So we destroyed our own infrastructure to go into a very, very weird sense of transportation. Everyone private, build as much with public money for as much private possible, have nothing to back it up, and now when prices are getting too high, everything is just imploding. I said earlier, I didn't buy a car or even get a driver's license because we have good public transportation. Now imagine if you live in, let's say, any town USA. If you sell your car, you're broke. You have no good public transportation. If you want to ride a bike, you better jump in front of a train. It's as healthy as it gets. And you just will bankrupt yourself. Now you're paying gas, you get to work to get money to pay for your own gas.
Yeah, that's the thing. The cycle, we're going to talk about the oil cycle here, guys, and why we have the oil cycle. But we went from this, as you can see on the screen, to this within a generation. So this is Long Island. Specifically, this is Freeport and East Bay. Not so much of a bay except for over here, but yeah, this is what happened. And of course, we can say this was this is mostly in the boomer generation. Look what they've done, but look, this is unfortunately what has happened. So yeah, America, look what we've done. So somebody living over here, you can't. It's not like you're back over here where you're maybe, living on the top floor somewhere in one of these apartments, which was very normal. And there's still some cities here in the United States, as well as very many cities all over across the world that have this, that you live up in the state. Look, when I was in Tokyo for a bit, we were up in the hotel room, just standing there. We say, hey, let's go ahead and fill up the fridge. Went downstairs, literally went across the street to a Lawson's or 7-Eleven. It's either one of those two because they're kind of next to each other and the same sort of thing. Just grab a whole bunch of bags of food and walk back up. That's it. You can't do that here in the United States. Now, if you're here in the United States, basically the closest food store is maybe a mile or two away, which is the same thing over here where I'm living in now. If I don't want to go to Dollar General, which is a complete mess, and even then to walk to Dollar General is about a half a mile away. But, you have to be able to drive everywhere, so you're forced to have the car. This is the problem. So, yeah, look what we've done, and to say, yeah, look.
Don't you feel silly? Don't you feel
just plain
stupid?
depressing if you think about it.
Don't you feel a little ashamed.
It's just depressing.
It is. I just played the Sam Hyde "Don't You Feel Silly," you know, and that is, you know, for the last generation. I am gonna ask you. I mean, don't you feel silly for pushing this on? And honestly, let's get this out right now about the baby boomer generation, okay? Because I've heard a lot of complaints, and there's been things going on the Facebook group which have been upsetting to a lot of folks. And I've said this before. Facebook is great for the layout and the clean way to get information and to have some sort of organized discussion. However, the demographic on Facebook is not the greatest. And of course, it's mostly the baby boomer generation that is on Facebook, which is why I've made the Discord channel so we can get the younger audience to come over here. Which, by the way, if you are on the YouTube chat right now, go ahead, click like, click subscribe, and also we do have the Discord link in the description. Go ahead and join on there if you want to get in on here. We'll be having chat and discussions and live calls later on in here. But let's be honest. When America started this whole entire getting in the 1950s through the Eisenhower administration of building up these massive amounts of highways and building these levitt towns, now, you know, suburbs, okay, because it was lobbied right through the American government to push these suburbs, along with GM, okay, and a lot of these other companies. This was all sort of coordinated. Now, not, I would say tightly coordinated. It was coordinated, not loosely, but it was very well coordinated to make this happen, okay? The population of the United States was at, I believe, around 150 million. Okay, so for the older generation, especially the baby boomer generation, saying that, oh no, you kids have it easy today. No, you had about half the population that was available now. Okay, they really need to stop talking about this stuff, because I've really had it up to here with this. Okay, you can't have it both ways. All right. Yes, you had gas prices that were high back in the 1970s. Again, you also had half the population available. When they made the highways, they were highballing maybe the population growth by 2000 or so would be 210 million. They were not expecting millions upon millions of people to be coming into the United States, and basically, you know, the infrastructure cannot hold it. Okay, so let's be honest, okay, when it comes to immigration demographics, yeah, the infrastructure of the United States was not meant to hold this many people in the current infrastructure that we have. Okay? But, you know, that's what it is. And look, unfortunately for the baby boomers, you know, they can't have it both ways, because you have some of them saying, oh, well, it's too bad this problem. I'm gonna be dead before I even see any of this happening. Well, you can't have it both ways, again, because, you know, you're either going to get, they keep pushing their lifespan, because if you look at all the commercials on MSNBC and on Fox News, it's all about, you know, the little blue pills, or, you know, Medicaid and Medicare. You know, look, the United States has spent, we spent $5 trillion in the Middle East. But where do you think the $25 of the $1 trillion went to, okay? We spend most of the money in this country goes to mostly baby boomer healthcare. Okay, that's where a lot of it goes. Not I wouldn't say most of it, but definitely more than the wars. Okay, we have spent more on that. It's why they call it the me generation, the Peter Pan generation. Okay, well, you know, hey, if you want to keep the Medicare grifting, oh well, you're gonna have to suffer with the rest of us now, because the economy and the way that this country is going down, and it's because of the consequences of the car. So, you know, that whole I don't care as long as I get mine attitude, well, now you're paying the price for it. You are literally now paying the price for it. So, how does it feel? That's what it is, okay? And again, we cannot handle any more highways. We cannot handle any more of this stuff, because we're again, if you look at the thumbnail of this, the country is basically sea to shining sea of lanes of highways. Okay, we're the entire urban infrastructure of the United States has just become complete asphalt. Which, by the way, if you guys don't know, the asphalt is also a product of oil. So where else does the oil go into? Well, you know, you need oil for tires. You need oil for making roads. Okay. So where do you think that asphalt comes from? Okay. All right. And again, it just keeps going and going. Where do you get that oil? Well, the oil needs to come out from drilling it. And what powers those drillers? Oil. It's the whole economy. It's like taking the those power strips and plugging it into itself. It's basically the whole oil goes all around and all around. Okay, so and it's just going to get worse because now with ethanol, the Biden administration is now pushing to lower fuel prices by increasing the amount of ethanol in fuels. Okay, so right now in most of your fuel, there's about 10% ethanol, right? That's what it is. Now they're going to push it to about 15. Okay, so 15% ethanol, which for most laymen, they say, oh, great, so it's supposed to make the gasoline cheaper, right? No. It will make it cheaper on the offset. It won't make it cheaper for your car, nor will it make it cheaper for the environment. It's terrible for cars. It's terrible for the environment. It's terrible all around, okay? And there are multiple articles going over this, okay? This is from fee.org. You say, well, I don't think that. Well, here's one from Yale. So,
I mean, if they're gonna add ethanol to fuel, why don't make it exciting? Just add leaded fuel again. Just make it fun again, you know? If you're gonna ruin something, just make it fun rather than ruining everything. You know, ethanol is interesting. It's an interesting source of fuel on its own. I know research trying to produce pure ethanol burning engines. However, I work on trains in my spare time, and I know what ethanol can do if you mix it with a certain fuel, especially in gasoline engines. A small percentage, as is now, is good, but in the long run, and this is a fun part for everyone who's thinking, oh, this is gonna be fine. Sorry if I'm interrupting here, but I just want to say that ethanol also has a bad lubricating aspect, so it's only allowed for gasoline engines, but it slowly excels the deterioration of your engine. So in the short term, yay, cheaper gas, cheaper between brackets. In the long run, hey, nice, more expensive engine replacements. So that's also something you need to watch out for.
Yeah. That's the thing. There are specific engines that are designed around taking ethanol fuel, okay, because they have different compression rates and they're able to go ahead and take, because ethanol gives them out a lot of sludge also into regular fuel. Which, okay, so let's get into this. Also, the other conspiracy, and again, conspiracies are real things. The companies have been found guilty of conspiracy, like the GM Firestone conspiracy to the streetcar conspiracy, which General Motors and Firestone, we've repeated this multiple times before, but we'll go over again just in case there are new viewers watching, so they can be able to understand this. And this is kind of the reason why I sort of repeat a lot of things, is because you get to see the logical progression of where we are right now. But during the Obama administration, one of the big things in order to go ahead and push for more automobile sales, to go ahead and save General Motors, was the Cash for Clunkers plan. And Cash for Clunkers wasn't necessarily mainly meant for, you can get rid of your old crappy car and go buy a new car. There were a lot of people going ahead and getting rid of cars that were pretty well out. A lot of late 80s, 90s Japanese fuel economic cars. Okay, that maybe had 100,000, 200,000 miles in them. So they a lot of these cars, if you take care of them, they can easily go over 500,000 miles. Okay, but that's not good for General Motors coffers. Okay, they want people to continually buy cars and buy cars and buy cars. Okay, so that's what Cash for Clunkers did. They got rid of a lot of older cars to go ahead and put in a lot of newer cars, and basically, apart from the bailout for GM, they got free cars that they could be able to sell. Okay. On top of that, there have been cars that have been able to push through. Okay, a lot of the older cars, okay, cannot run on ethanol. Okay, so you're gonna tell me that we're just going ahead and just putting this oil? We're putting ethanol in our gasoline just as a nice thing to do for people? No, because in actuality, let's say you have a 1992 Toyota Corolla, right? And that thing has been going on 400,000 miles strong. You start putting in now E15 ethanol. Remember, the car wasn't made for even E10 ethanol. That wasn't a thing back in the 90s. Now you're putting E15 ethanol, okay? That engine will seize at some point. Hence, the car is now done for, and now you have to buy another car. So, who's pushing for ethanol in the fuel? Well, you have the large farmer lobby, which is it's not even like for good, for biodiversity and farming or anything like that. Most of the crops in the United States are mostly corn crops, okay, which corn goes into ethanol. All right. So again, the whole economy, basically at this point, is centered around the automobile, centered around oil. It's the same thing with ethanol. Okay, everything has to be centered on fueling, literally fueling the economy. Okay, and if you think, well, ethanol is bad for the environment, and the EPA said so. Well, yeah, the EPA did say ethanol damages the environment. Okay, but don't worry, because now the EPA has also raised the amount of ethanol that must be blended with gasoline. All right. So there you go. So much for here you go. EPA raises the amount of ethanol that must be blended with gas. I'm not making this up, guys. This is what happens. It's just the world keeps going around on oil and gas. All right. We have no other way to push the economy. Okay. All your food comes from oil and gas. The corn, a lot of corn also goes to feed cattle, which is not good. If they're not grass fed, they're probably corn fed. Okay, and then from there to go ahead and fuel a lot of other stuff, and the trucks that go ahead and take all the goods and everything else, the oil and gas. In case if you live in a place that is still powered by electricity by oil and gas, there you go. This is the whole issue with the economy, because we have been so dependent on oil and so dependent on the automobile as the engine of our economy. We are done. We're just seeing the collapse in slow motion, and we're along for the ride. That's basically where it is. Sorry. I'm sorry we're all going to be doom and gloom about this a little bit more, but this is the reality of it, folks.
And to think about it, years ago, farming was actually not dependent on oil. Well, on the automobile even. I just had the idea of nowadays, if you transportate farm product, either goes to a big silo, and if you're lucky, it gets on the BNSF train, because Iowa, all about BNSF there.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of a video I once saw about I'm gonna actually praise California in an aspect. That was the Oakland interurban. We basically had freight service, interurban freight service that would just collect farm products and bring them to the port and have them export, or bring them to a different railroad and have them spread all over the country. And again, as I said, this is the age of insanity, but just think about it. Nowadays, there is less than there was half a century ago.
Yeah, and that's the issue. And it's not like, because again, the economies have worked, before, when it was, before oil, there was steam and everything else. And I'm not saying, let's go back to let's make ourselves a steampunk economy or something like that. That's silly. There are ways to have oil in the economy, and that's perfectly fine. The problem is that we have a lobbying infrastructure in the United States, which by the way, in the United States, we don't. It's not like we don't have our own oligarchs. Okay, it's not just because one large, massive country in Eastern Europe and Asia has oligarchs that we don't have any of our own. Okay, let's cut the crap over here. Okay, it's a lot easier for them. Instead of having to compete and having to be able to go ahead and compete with new technologies, if you can go ahead and pay $1 million to a politician to go ahead and put in a bill that is serving your own interest, would you do that rather than pay $500 million in research and development? And most of them are going to do that. Okay, you may have some with a moral degree, but you don't have that, unfortunately, in the United States anymore. You don't have a lot of moral people when they get up to this point. And even if you do have one or two moral billionaires, they're very much outnumbered by the rest of them, and that's the way that we have the system set up in the United States. You can't have that and expect good results out of it. So let me see, just to make sure that I'm clear when it comes to the U.S. population over here. I'm trying to see if I can get from 1950 to sort of be clear on this. Okay, I know I had it here. I don't know why it disappeared. But yeah, anything you want to add into there, Ruben?
I mean, oligarchs is such a weird word. Why don't you call them aspiring billionaires? Oh wait, that's how they're being called
Or
today.
entrepreneurs, they're just
Oh yeah.
entrepreneurs.
Oh, major job providers even.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Here we
it,
are.
but it didn't state which country gets a job.
Yeah. Um, and this is not a great graph over here because you don't get to see it from before, but you can kind of see like right over here at the very end of it. I'm trying to see if I can find one that's before them because before you had the United States population was basically hovering around 125 and 150. It took a long time to get to 150 over here in 1950 or so. Okay, but then it just started to increase and grow very rapidly. And unfortunately, with this graph, it's just looking into the future over here. Um, and again, you can say or extrapolate what it can be in the future later on. You just don't know what happens in between here to really say what happens. You don't know what can happen catastrophically. I'm just saying. But the reality is that when you had the economy that was booming, okay, you had 100 million less people, okay, back in the 1980s, okay? So it's not the same economy. It's not the same sort of place, all right? You cannot be able to give, 350 million people, more or less, each and every single one an automobile. But that's the way this system runs, okay? Because if you have more cars sold, okay, more cars means more oil, more it means more tires, it means more insurance, it means more taxes, it means more busy bees to get to work, and all that honey is for me, the billionaire, and not for the bee. So that's what we've seen here, okay? Because people are not having more purchasing power at all. That's the way the economy has gone. Inflation has basically destroyed everyone's savings, and now to get eggs is like $2.50 rather than a normal price as it was before. In just the last 2 years, we have just seen record amounts of inflation, and it's going to get even worse. You're probably going to see meat products really hit a very high price in the fall and winter. Okay, and again, all that farm equipment has to be powered by oil. All the goods have to be go ahead and moved by oil, powered by oil. Everything has to be indicative on oil. And because we have such a high demand on it, okay, and all these economic factors have come in and disrupted the supply of oil, this is what you're seeing, the whole destruction of the economy, okay? And, forget World War III, right? Because this country isn't even the same sort of people or spirit from the previous wars back then. Okay, it's a factor. If World War III happens out, but it's ultimately we're talking about what's affecting you right now. Okay, and it really does have to do that the United States is dependent on a globalized economy rather than being able to be subsisting. Okay, sorry, there's no easy access to good over here. It's because it was cheaper to send off manufacturing to Shenzhen and Wuhan. Okay, sorry, your parents had to get cheap stuff from Walmart in the 90s. Okay, and sold your future off. Okay, that's unfortunate. Now they didn't maybe sign on the dotted line, but I mean, look, when you have a generation of we're not talking all Christian Bale American cycles, but when you have a whole generation of people that are sort of like that, it's not like okay, you're gonna have one or two that out of 100 that figure something's not right, okay, but unfortunately the rest of them are just going to follow along with that, okay. And we've talked about the real inflation before and stuff like that. It's not the same economy, and unfortunately it's because the engine of the economy has been solely dependent on the automobile. We will have some again, we'll put some happy articles into here. We'll talk a little bit about Brightline and stuff like that. We'll get the Brightline copium going in here to get us all better off over here.
The way to say it's Brightline, not Brightline.
It is Brightline, not Brightline. Yeah, but
I mean, talk about the cars. I mean, it's a very good thing you said. Dependence on cars, because it's not just oil, it's just the means of cars. Cars is not inherently bad, but just like alcohol, if you go for an overconsumption, you get alcohol poisoning and you get an addiction. So that's the thing. It's not just oil, but it's the means of transportation as well. Cars, just Look at the cities. What happens? You know, you show the picture of Detroit. Detroit had nice neighborhoods, and then they destroyed it all for a single highway.
Yeah. And there's pictures of that. I don't know if I put. I know I had one picture of that, but we're talking a little bit about. And again, I've been working on the script. I know I've been saying I'm gonna get that video out, but you know, I'm at least keeping some activity going here, guys. All right. Now that I'm starting to get a groove over here, we're starting to see some more activity over here. But please don't push me again into Facebook. I really don't like going on Facebook that much. All right. And honestly, it's honestly silly. And for those of you guys who are younger, okay. Because I know we talk about baby boomers a lot, and we like to make fun of them a lot over here and stuff like that in the club and all of that. But, let me see if I can find that meme, okay? And again, we're getting a lot of, now that the Zoomer generation is starting to get over. But, I mean, you guys aren't, you guys aren't the smartest either. Here's the meme over here. Look.
Excuse me. I'm just having a Coke, so yeah.
Yeah, but speaking of, I don't know if you guys can see the meme over here, but here, this is Gen Z's way of trying to fix things. Can't even figure out a can opener, which by the way, I think it's time to go ahead and open up a beer or something like that. We got some Kentucky bourbon ale, so why not? We'll just go ahead and pop that open there. There you go. And this, look at this. It's just different. Here you go. An item that's made in the USA, and this is like 25 years old that Holly's family has had. There's a whole bunch of other older stuff in this house that's just like made in the USA. You can just see the night and day difference. Or stuff made in Japan. I mean, that was maybe the other place where things actually worked. But yeah. But that's again. Here's the other thing. Again, again, we said it's not just the car. The cars is the biggest amount of oil consumption in the United States. But since we've put everything on oil, here you go. So Texas now is going to see power demand spiking with the heat wave that's been going on, and we're about to get this heat wave coming here in the Midwest right now. Right after this storm just pushes through with this pressure wave coming in. But yeah, here we go. The state's grid operator was able to maintain supply, yet without calling any for conservation, because they were telling people, well, you're gonna have to use less of the air conditioner, as it goes on, guys. This is just what it is. Again, a lot of oil in the economy, and a lot of Texas's grid is powered by oil. Okay. So, and again, correct me if I'm wrong on there, but it mostly is. But that's the issue with that, okay? And we've seen this over and over again, okay? The blackouts, and there's been more, and I've been noticing it, okay? I've talked with friends that are, back in Florida and people that are over here and around the country. People have been noticing their electricity has flickered. I would say at least here in the last week or so, there's been like 2 just flickers. And then 1 blackout while I was trying to sleep around between like 4 to around 5 o'clock. It was out for like an hour or so. You're going to start to see demand for, and brownouts and stuff like this, because again, the supply is not there with so much induced demand for oil. That's the issue. Now, there have been ways, and again, we'll talk about the solutions, because I know we're all about solutions here, even though we like to complain about a lot of stuff that's going on, but we always talk about solutions. Right, we always do. Now, we can talk about the larger solutions, but I am going to go on later on and talk about what you guys can do for solutions that you can pick up to be able to get to the other side. Because again, the reason why I like talking about solutions, and some of you guys complain, is like, why are you talking about stuff like how to prepare for ourselves and stuff like that? Because I care for you guys, all right? I want you guys to get on the other side of this. Okay, so we have people with common sense that can go through the other side of this, and we can be able to rebuild our country, or whichever country that you're in, with common, sensible, logical transit solutions. That's what we want to do. Okay, but yeah, it's what it is, again, because, and I've talked about this before. Going into the whole nuclear solution, which again, I'm going to try to see if I can contact Environmental Progress, because they do talk a lot of stuff, and I've always been an environmentally issued type of guy, okay? But this is the problem, okay? So like I said before, I'm a big proponent of nuclear energy, And you see nuclear energy work in places like France, okay? France has the cleanest air in Europe and one of the cheapest one of the cheapest electric bills is because they produce their own electricity through nuclear energy. What is nuclear energy? It's basically steam. Okay, it's a fancy way to get steam and hydroelectric power through nuclear fission, heating up water. Okay, but this is the thing, guys. Okay, so all these green groups and all these oil companies like BP, like Chevron, saying, "Oh, we're going to be green." You know, "Oh, we're pledging by 2030 that we're going to have a portfolio that's diversified with green energy." They're going to take their time with that. And honestly, they're pushing stuff like solar, like wind power and stuff like that, because they know it will not be able to keep up with the demand. Okay, the power inherent per, let's say, per square inch or per unit for windmills and for solar has nowhere near the amount of oil and nowhere near the amount of nuclear energy. But like we said again, okay, this is the interest funding from oil and natural gas. It was not the Sierra Club, $136 million at least of what we know, to push and attack nuclear power and to go against the building of nuclear power plants. Natural Resources Defense Council, at least $70 million directly invested in oil and gas renewable energy interests that stand to profit from the closure of nuclear plants. Environmental Defense Fund has received a minimum of $60 million from oil and gas and renewables investors who would directly benefit from the anti-nuclear advocacy. Wise International, okay, it keeps getting funded by oil. The Environmental Law and Policy Center, funded by natural gas and renewable energy interests. And again, by renewable energy interests, we're talking about the oil companies. Greenpeace works to kill nuclear power around the world and refuses to disclose its donors. Okay, and I'm pretty sure these people are getting millions of dollars from oil and gas in order to go ahead and attack nuclear. Okay? Friends of the Earth works to kill nuclear power around the world and refuses to disclose its donors. Okay? So we see this time and time again. Alright? Like I've said before. You can be able to have a whole mixture of different types of energy. Okay? We can be able to produce our own energy over here. Okay? A whole bunch of countries have done it. But like I said before, guys, okay? If you're a large oil company, okay, instead of going ahead and spending, you know, like they're trying to pretend right now, you know, millions of dollars to go ahead and do research and development into renewables and stuff like that, okay? It's a lot easier for them to go ahead and continue the American corporatocracy and keep lobbying. Again, it's no different from oligarchs, you know, it's the same difference, you know. I don't know. Ruben, have you ever seen the movie Lord of War, or familiar with it?
I think mine is better. That was a reference out of that movie. I love that movie. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think mine's better. But yeah, but just to say, I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody, because again, I'm a big gun guy. You guys know me. I love firearms and stuff. I love cars. I love firearms. I like working out. I like punching stuff. Okay, I'm a very manly guy. All right, but in Lord of War, it's you know. I'm not going to spoil the movie. I do suggest you guys watch the movie. There's some risque parts here or there that are not essentially Catholic, all right, but you know, or kosher if you want to put it that way. But it's a darn good movie, okay, with Nicolas Cage and everything. But you know, we're talking about, you know, who's really the bad guy over here, okay? You know, one person's oligarch is another person's lobbyist, okay? But like one big part of the film is that, you know, the United States is trying to shut down this arms dealer when the United States itself is the largest arms dealer on the planet in human history. Okay, so it's a lot of hypocrisy going on. Okay, you know, and speaking of war, you know, yeah, there's a war in an unspecified country, and you know, thanks to YouTube, we can't mention it because I don't want to get Ackmanned on the channel. You know, they pick and choose who they want to get off, but because of that. Again, look, like I said before, the fertilizer. Where does that fertilizer from, you know, from Russia come from? Okay, or where does the fertilizer go to? It goes to for the ethanol. Okay, for the corn, to grow corn. You can't have corn grow if you don't have fertilizer. Okay, because Russia has about like 70% of the world's fertilizer comes from there. 30% of the world's neon comes from Russia. Okay, what is neon used for? Neon is used for the production of chips. Okay, where do those chips go into? They go into trucks. If those trucks don't have chips, those trucks don't move, because most of the trucks and automobiles now have been digitized. Okay, they need to have those ships to move. Yeah, most of the other stuff like the engine and everything else runs mechanically, but now the mechanical is based on the CPU in the trucks and in the cars. Okay, so now you don't have those engine management, those engine control modules in there. They don't run. Okay, and the ammonia. All right, where does ammonia go into? You need ammonia for diesel emission fluid. All right, so for those of you who are not familiar with diesel emission fluid, again, I worked for a diesel company. I am very familiar with diesel emission fluid. I'm also very aware how much truckers hate putting in diesel emission fluid because it's not necessary. You know, it doesn't really clean up the emissions of diesel fluid or diesel emissions by that much. It's really just there to add another middleman into the part. But the diesel cars or diesel trucks will not move. So now they have less ammonia, which Russia supplies a ungodly amount of ammonia for not just the United States, because we were getting a lot of it there because we weren't making our own over here. Okay, this is what happens when you have a globalized economy, that you don't have self-sustaining and self-subsistence over here. Why? Because we put everything into the car and everything is based around the automobile oil economy. Okay, so you don't have ammonia, you can't have diesel emission fluid, nothing to go ahead and move now the empty cartons of ethanol and oil and all that. Okay, and again, where does the oil come from? It comes from those oil diggers. What powers those oil diggers? Probably a Cummins K50 or a QS K50. Okay, and you need oil to get oil. All right, the self-eating system is completely unsustainable, and it's not going to get fixed anytime soon. So the economy at this point, the oil economy it's done. It's reaching its apex. The cycle for this economy it's done. All right, sorry guys. So we're getting there, and unfortunately, a lot of trains do run on diesel, but that's what it is. Oh man, yeah. Like I said, I have so many notes on this. There's a lot that I'm trying to get out there, guys. I could have made a whole video about this, but I think it's easier to just at least get the information out there. Now, I know from this information we could start putting out some shorter videos. I'm going to try experimenting with YouTube Shorts this week, but again, I'm preaching to the choir over here, and I know someone posted or commented, it's like, would you rather try to get you people or people who disagree with you in, or would you rather preach to the choir? No, you preach to the choir because you want them to be able to be smarter, to be able to be more effective. Okay, you want quality, not quantity. Okay, if I could just have 12 disciples, we could do a lot, and we got a lot of good people on this channel. Okay, so I want to make you guys smart enough to be able to go ahead and go out there and preach the gospel of rail, like in a sense, right? I'm nowhere, saying that the Lord and Savior over here, by none at all. I'm not at all. Okay, the stuff that I'm talking about is common sense. It's logic. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, talking about good people, I just looked at the server and I saw there's someone already waiting on the stage to talk. It's Joseph Miles. So Joseph.
Yeah.
Just want to say I saw it. So when we're ready to open the stage, you're the first one to go on the stage.
So let's go ahead and take a break over here, guys. We'll go ahead and see from you guys what you all want to say and chime on in. Because again, we're a club. We listen to people here, and we're trying to make it more and more of an actual club. All right. So let's go ahead and allow in Joseph. I believe it's Millie. We'll figure that out there. Onto the stage. Gonna invite him to speak.
All right.
Alrighty, Joseph, you have been invited to come on board.
Joseph, you're still awake, or?
Don't worry, it's the first, the first one or two people in the audience usually takes a pick, but yeah, we'll go ahead. Joseph, you're on board. And again, guys, keep it quick. We're trying to keep it all to 5 minutes or so.
Wait a second.
All right, we'll wait. Don't worry, Joseph. Timer starts only when you start talking. So
no worries. No worries.
Oh, am I speaking?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. So you probably saw my thing. So, God, I'm not. So,
Yeah,
You can see
just one thing, Joseph.
Can you
Again,
see the large paragraph that I wrote, or I don't know how Discord works.
first thing, Joseph. Again, welcome aboard. Just sort of explain the thing for those watching live, so they can know what we're referencing as well.
Oh, so I believe that some of the people in the audience are familiar with the Lower Lackawanna and Western Lackawanna cutoff. Of course, I was not around for it because. So what they did was that they basically built a narrow, straight, super high engineered line through northwestern New Jersey. What they did was, so the coal trains had a hard time getting through like a tunnel. It was a curvy line. It had a lot of steep curvature. It was not a good line. So they basically they made huge fills. They built, I think, like 2 concrete viaducts, and it cut off something like 11 miles. It was incredible. I mean, it was the most highly engineered, probably of its day. I heard they used similar techniques to the Panama Canal. They built a similar line in Pennsylvania. Not necessarily shorter, but in terms of limiting curvature and grades, it was, again, huge. They built the 200, I think, like over 200 foot tall Nicholson Bridge, which is still there today. I've not been there personally. I don't live in the area, but I just find it incredible to research because they just went out and did this. In my opinion, they personally invented the concept, basically invented high-speed rail because they just basically built a whole new line for this. It was just incredible. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
that sounds incredible. So,
So,
what happened? What happened with this railroad?
oh, it was abandoned. Cut off in New Jersey,
Oh.
at least, because when Conrail came along, they basically judged the line in New Jersey to be excess. There was a whole lot of it's a bit complicated. There was a connecting freight line that was also pretty high engineered that was basically severed because, well, when they were merging with the Erie, which I find that side thing, I find that the history of the Erie when it was built actually kind of mimics much of the history of the California high-speed rail because the Erie took 19 years to construct. I'll keep this short. This is a bit of a side tangent. It basically, the cost was 3 times higher than it should have been. Yeah, they basically, I just find it kind of mimics that. Of course, it eventually got built, but back to the Lackawanna. So it was a connecting freight line. They just basically thought we could reroute freight over the Erie line, and they abandoned this connecting freight line, which in turn affected traffic on the Lackawanna. So when the cutoff, so they basically Conrail judged the cutoff was no longer needed and abandoned it. The line Pennsylvania was bought by another rail line, but yeah, that's basically it. That was basically it. They're still they're going to try to reactivate it, but it's taken a lot of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you
Again,
said
like the
corrected.
whole government stuff. But I just thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, I figured, hey, why not talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be a bit of an Amtrak engineer here and give you some extra minutes because I'm a bit on a delay. So chill, relax. So I think I heard something about the project. Isn't NJT, like New Jersey Transit, working on reactivating as well?
I think they're working on it. I'm not the best person you should. I just find this interesting. There's a whole channel dedicated to like the progress of the Lackawanna cutoff reactivation in New Jersey. I'm pretty sure some of you guys are familiar about it. I'm not affiliated, but it's interesting. What they basically in 2010, I believe, was in the process of reactivating the first 4 miles to Andover, but I believe they had some legal issues with because with drainage that they need to make a culvert that went through some other property, which they had. So that's delayed the project for years. Although they're finally getting back to it. After they said that they'd be having trains running to Andover by like 2021. That's not happening now. I think now it's like 2026 or 2027.
Yeah.
Although Amtrak says they want to get to Scranton via this route via their 2035 map. So hopefully they'll extend it more into Binghamton and beyond.
So Joseph,
Okay.
I'm gonna ask a very fun question. Imagine you had absolute political power. You could do what you want. What would you do with the Lackawanna cutoff? What would you do with the railroad line?
Well, of course, I would bring it back.
Hmm.
I find that what the Lackawanna did was very similar to what Brightline does in Florida. I mean, just basically the history seems like they're both very savvy companies. They were extraordinary. The Lackawanna was extraordinarily successful, especially when compared to the Erie. It basically never went bankrupt. It had some very good leaders. Um, yeah, it never went bankrupt. That's a feed into onto itself.
Yeah.
Probably because it hauled a lot of coal.
Yeah, and
And
that's
when
that's sort of the sad thing about it. You know, again, the sort of the funny thing about a lot of rail cargo back then, and still is today, is you know, it's a lot of it based on coal. But again, a lot of that coal was mined here in the United States and moving it around within
yes,
the United States. So that's at least some sort of self-sustaining economy that we have within ourselves. But you know, it's just kind of sad that, you know, especially a lot of these abandoned railroads like the Lackawanna Cutoff and a whole bunch of others. We're taken off because people thought that the future was going to be, you know, all by trucks and all by cars.
yes.
And now we're slowly but surely getting back to, we made a mistake, so now we got to get to that. Unfortunately, I was muted for like half the conversation because somebody was revving up their motorcycle down the street. You know, those kids
Oh,
and their darn motorcycles again.
yeah, it's yeah, of course. Yeah, I just found it very interesting because I just find it very peculiar that when all the railroad companies start going bankrupt, like that's when the whole period of like, oh, Vietnam, counterculture, the Rust Belt, that all that stuff was happening around the same time. I
Yep.
don't know how much they affected each other, but of course there must have been a correlation because of course maybe the lack of passenger service has had an effect on the economic prosperity of the region because I know that that area is kind of depressed economically because
Oh
yeah,
no,
the
it
whole
it,
upstate
it, it
area.
definitely is, and again, like what you said, like this whole entire thing started to happen within. I would say the 1960s was probably the decade, like the beginning of the end. Like everything started to go to crap in the 1960s, and again, you know, that's when the baby boomers were starting to come of age. And again, I don't want to go back to. I know we guys like to go ahead and beat on them, but you know, it's true. You know, again, you know, when you had this back over at the time, you know, the adults in the room, you know, everything is kind of a toy to this whole generation. I've noticed this, you know, when, let's say back in the 1960s and early 1970s, right? Muscle cars were out there. You can get like a Dodge Challenger for $5,000, you know, and back then that wasn't that expensive to get. You know, if you're working a minimum wage job, you know, not to get a Dodge Challenger, but I mean, you could get a pretty well off job right out of high school and be able to get a muscle car, okay?
Yeah.
But you look at the marketing for today, and it's still marketed to the same exact people. It's not even marketed to the younger generation now. You see, you know, commercials for muscle cars like Dodge Challengers, you know, Chevy Camaros. They're still marketed to the baby boomer demographic. So they're the only ones that were able to go ahead and get cheap muscle cars back then and be able to afford super ridiculously expensive muscle cars now. Okay, and it goes to the same sort of line. You know, they've kind of gotten like that control of the economy, and they're just it's taking a long time to get things moving because they're really making it hard, you know, because it's the whole economy sort of based on that.
Yeah, one of my big fears is that like when I see all the history when we study World War II, you know how like the United States produced everything. We're like the world industry. We produced like the industry that took down like Nazi Germany and Japan. My existential crisis is that, well, what if we have to what if God forbid we go to war with like Russia or China? Would we be able to pull off that same feat? And I don't think we would be able to do that because of how much we've like fallen per se.
Yeah.
That's
I would say honestly, like I said before, you know, World War III, you know, even if it does happen, you know, what's really going to be affecting us over here in the United States, it's going to be the dissension and you know, fighting with, you know, it could turn into, and most people have been saying now, like 70% of the I would say, I think the Republicans now say, you know, we're looking at World War III. I mean, not World War III, Civil War, and like 50% of Democrats are looking at it. I mean, now you have, you know, both parties and both sides of the political aisle wanting to push for separation. So it's gonna get messy. You know, I'm not too worried that, you know, the Russians are going to fly on in like Red Dawn and stuff like that, because that's very much that's very much, you know, a 1980s Reagan era, very baby boomer sort of way of thinking. You know, the Russians are gonna come in and come down. No, I'm more worried about, you know, having the door kicked in and having my dog shot. You know, honestly, by you know, that's what I'm more worried about.
I mean, Joseph,
the Soviets were like starving in like the 80s or whatever, but like we didn't know that. We didn't know how bad they were doing economically.
Yeah, no, it isn't. They're not that much to worry about, honestly.
I mean, Joseph, to talk about your fear about the fighting the Russians, do you know how big the Russian economy is?
Oh, it's as far as I know, we'd be able to like other than the gas, like we've probably only been able to sanction Russia because their economy is garbage. I mean, like other than gas, I mean, other than that, but I don't know if we would be able to do the same thing with China if something were happening over there.
No, definitely China is far worse at this point to deal with.
Oh yeah, of course. That's why I think we should start bringing jobs back to the United States.
Yeah, and it's less to do with their military and more to do with how much economic control they have.
Yes.
I mean, to give you an idea, the Russian economy is as big as the Benelux. Benelux is Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. To give you an idea how big the Benelux is, Belgium is the size of Maryland. So imagine the Russian economy being as big as 2 Marylands and 1 New York City. Not New York State, New York City.
How much of that is like, how much? What do you get if you were to take away just gas? Would it just be like Maryland and that's it?
Yeah, and
I know. I'm talking about on the surface. If you take away gas of Russia, I mean, I've stayed in Estonia, so I saw the freight trains moving by mostly gas and oil. So if we would take that away, I would say the Russian economy is just gone,
Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese economy is just big because in the 1980s everyone was like, "Ooh, looks like the Chinese friends are good friends to do business." Something never happened on Tiananmen Square. Let's do business, and now we're paying the price. Not only America, but Belgium as well. We
made our own worst enemy.
Everybody's paying the price because we've you know, the United States has sort of led the way, you know, and I'm kind of saying, you know, when I say we as the United States, you know, it doesn't mean that, you know, our generation had any power in that. You know, we were just kind of along for the ride. But yeah, the United States, you know, our country has kind of led the world into this sort of disaster film we're just seeing in slow motion here. But anyway, any last words, Joseph? I know we went pretty way over time here, but
thank you for so much. I did not expect to be featured at all. I deeply appreciate you having me on here. I cannot say words cannot describe how grateful I am, but it's been a pleasure, and I hope you guys do be all well and stuff like that.
Honestly, same. The honor is ours. Yeah. Thank you, man.
Hey, Joseph, can I ask you a quick question?
What is it?
Would you like to come up next time again?
Would I like to come up next time? That depends.
All right.
Depends.
All right.
No worries. We'll be having plenty of live streams, so not to worry.
So if you can, I would love to see you again here on the stream.
Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on here.
No, thank you for coming on board.
Enjoy your day, man.
Okay. Sounds good.
Alrighty. So that was a pretty interesting conversation, and it went to some pretty well things. So yeah, let's I saw some comments over here, just like some random things, just to go ahead and address them. Since we'll go into it later on the stream, but talking about like the personal solutions you guys can sort of do, because I've kind of been sort of a prepper in the last you know, several years or so. You know, I'm not gonna tell you what I have or anything like that. And no, that's like the last thing you do. Adam is asking what cooking products use oil and should we use something else. Definitely don't use vegetable oil. Stop using vegetable oil or corn oil. It's terrible for your body, honestly. I usually just stick to olive oil, a lot of olive oil, okay? Because I'm mostly Italian, Spanish, so I'm gonna use olive oil in mostly everything. I mean, I'll put that in you know, everything. But you know, olive oil, coconut oil is also good. Avocado oil, just stay away from the vegetable oils. Let me see. Darius is talking about over here in the chat about The don't text and drive, don't drink and drive sort of culture, and it hasn't done anything. Yeah, it's fallen on deaf ears. It's the same sort of thing where the United States does. Oh, we're going to do a war on drugs. We're going to do a war on poverty, and both drugs and poverty have increased and gotten worse in the United States. Okay, so was it really a war on or a war for? Not to say that the United States is pushing for drunk driving, not at all. That's definitely something that's not at all. But it's just, again, like as Darius has said here in the chat, it's more to do with the prevalent culture of the automobile. You have to get around in an automobile in the United States, right?
Yeah. I mean, can I interrupt there very quickly?
No,
for
sure, go
a
ahead.
short story? Yeah, so, a few years ago, I went to Wisconsin to visit my now ex, and there's this one instance I still remember, and I'm still so shocked about. That's how lenient people are on driving under influence, It's in Wisconsin, because, Wisconsin, everyone goes to a bar. If you don't go to a bar in Wisconsin, you're definitely a spy. So, it was an evening, big twin turbo diesel Chevy truck, straight to the bar, and, we were having drinks, drink. And then something happened, which I was just thinking, guys, you can't be serious about it. Everyone was drunk, and then was a decision made to drive the truck drunk back home. And that was normal, and it just worked for me, because I'm used to, if I go to a bar to ride my bicycle, because let's be honest, no cop will ever pull over someone riding their bike drunk. That's just the thing, but
Yeah.
you either go by bike or go by public transportation, And they were just driving drunk back home, and I just thinking like, oh, okay, now I get it why there's so many deaths on the roads in the USA. Now I get it.
Yeah,
There's just no alternative.
And it has less to do with the drink and just more to do with the car, because you don't have any other way. Like, if you're in a place like I know I keep bringing up Japan, but that's basically the only place that I've been to that actually makes sense. That's in the way that it's built and in terms of infrastructure. But we went to we've drank at a couple of places, and in Japan and in Tokyo, it is legal that you can go ahead and have a drink and walk around on the streets in public. You can't do that here in the United States, because then you're drinking with an open container of alcohol, and you're gonna get riddled with 17 rounds of 9mm if you act up. So you want to just be in the United States, you can't do that sort of thing, right? And again, there's a lot of things about in the United States about when it comes to drinking. I blame the Protestants mostly for their teetotaler attitude towards drinking. Okay, that's just one sort of thing. But regardless, again, it always comes back to the way with the car. You wouldn't have so you have some people that are drunk and pass out on the street. We've seen a guy in Japan again. If you want to fall asleep in a country on public transportation, it better be in Japan, because if you fall asleep in public transportation, let's say a place like I'm not nitpicking, but let's just say Brazil, you're probably going to lose a couple kidneys or two. So but if you fall asleep in Japanese transit, no big deal. But speaking of, since we're all talking about transit and safety, American transit has been kind of turning into a pretty awful place right now. Where is that article? Here we are. Perfect. Now I found it. Here was an attack, and I can't play the video because the suspect in question was saying a lot of gamer words, if you guys know what I mean. So we cannot play the video, and honestly, we depending on, I'm very desensitized to violence. It's not a good thing to admit, but I can't really show it. But if you guys have seen it, it's a pretty awful video. All right, honestly, it's I think the worst thing about in the United States, especially now when it comes to violence on public transit, is that people just watch. They take out their stupid phones and they start watching, okay? Or they just don't do anything. These you can easily stop this sort of attacks on public transit, which is why I've told people always, if you don't have a weapon on you, you better buy a weapon. Particularly if you're in a place that you can be able to buy a firearm, buy a firearm. I'm not going to debate your right to have one, because there is no debate. The debate ends, I have a firearm. That's it. That's the end of the discussion. There is no debate. Okay, I don't have to debate it. I'm done debating it. You know, I don't. It has nothing to do with a piece of paper. Okay. You know, again, I'm not admitting anything or anything like that to have my door kicked in and my dog shot by the fun three letter agency. But again, look at this. You know, the person can be seen storming around the train car while screaming expletives. And again, the expletives are gamer words, if you guys know what I mean. The person sits down and then gets back up again, grabs a woman, grabs her by the hair, and then pulls her back down and starts threatening the woman. The woman's crying, you know, begging for help, and nobody helps her. Nobody freaking helps her. Okay? And again, this has been going on, all right? You know, everybody forgot about the shooting that happened in the New York subway that me and Darius covered about a month or two ago on the live stream. But I've been saying as tensions are starting to rise, it's going to get worse. Unfortunately, it has been spilling into public transportation. It's kind of very much an American problem. You don't really see that much unless, you know, you're going to see crime in places like in India and, you know, in other places like that. But again, you know, in terms of economy and in terms of, you know, let's find a politically correct term. GDP per capita, India is in a very different tier than the United States. Okay, but the United States is, you know, crime is pretty high. All right. I don't have to go into reasons, you know, why or why isn't that. The results are there. You can just look at the results. I don't have to explain or anything like that. But yeah, it's been getting worse on public transit, you know, which is why I'm telling you guys, you know, just first thing is just common sense and be vigilant, okay? Be vigilant. All right? That's what we'll go into that. Oh man. Let's see yes, shall not be infringed, Gramble. Shall not be infringed. Okay, and you know they're trying to do stuff in order to get that. Look, and I've admitted, you know, I used to sell firearms as well. Legally, I was working at Cabela's. I've mentioned this to you guys before. That was the job I had, and it's pretty fun. Okay, I don't consider myself an expert, but I consider, you know, myself very proficient, and I'm telling you guys, you know, stay prepared. All right. Going on the topics over here, and again, could we go off of oil? You know, the problem is still the car. And Ruben just sent this to me. This article came out pretty recently. We've talked about electric cars very often here on the channel. I've even driven a Tesla, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great experience. Would I have one now? Probably not. If the economy, let's say, if the economy was still, you know, sleeping along, and it would be sleeping along for 10 years over, and the grift would be continuing along, and I had enough money, yeah, sure, you know, but now it seems that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration may be recalling all the Teslas on the road. Almost 800,000 of them, 830,000 Teslas may be recalled because of this. Ruben, you wanna chime into this? Because I know you're a massive fan of the Musk man. You're like Elon Musk's biggest fan here. Ruben, you there? Yeah, we started talking about Elon Musk and he ran off. You there? I think Ruben may be having some issues, guys. Okay, there you are.
Yeah? Better?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, now I was just laughing and I was going like, oh, why are you doing this to me? But anyway, let's talk about the article.
You're the co-host, you gotta host sometimes, you know.
Yeah, true.
Co-pilot's gotta fly sometimes.
I'm more like the sleeping co-pilot. So anyway, so the article, I'm gonna just recap it very shortly. What's the name again? The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is looking into Tesla because something very interesting is happening. Imagine this: you're driving a Tesla, and you know, because it's a self-driving car, you think, why should I pay attention to the roads? And you know, you're on your phone watching some very interesting websites or watching a ARC live stream, as you should. And suddenly, someone swerves in your lane, so you would think it's a self-driving car. It will save me, right? No. There are 16 instances where Tesla cars who were on self-driving mode just switched out of the autopilot 1 second before impact. And because there was this gap of 1 second before impact, legally, The car wasn't in self-driving mode, but you were driving the car and you crashed into another car. And this means that Tesla is not responsible for the crash. So imagine this. For over 1 hour or even longer, the car would be driving itself, but 1 second before a possibly fatal crash, you are driving your car. No one has that reaction time. Basically, Tesla is not responsible for crashing your car. And this is something very, very wrong. Legally, you could argue that, you are driving the car. Tesla is not in wrong. But morally, this is just bankrupted. This is awful. Just imagine 1 hour long you weren't paying attention to the road, and then in 1 second time, 1 second, you have everything to do. Brake, avoid the crash. No one can do this, and Tesla knows this, and that is why the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is looking into Tesla, and this is just one of the many, many instances where self-driving cars are just proven to be an illusion.
Yeah, and like I've said, again, let's just put it out there: the American Rail Club does not endorse nor condone or any. Don't be watching ARC live streams while self-driving your Model 3 or anything like that. But again, we've mentioned this before. It goes back to the automobile. It goes back to the car. The car can be powered by anything you want it to be under the sun. It can be powered by hopes and dreams, or as one military person I say, you can wish on one hand and you know what on the other, and see which one fills up faster. You can power it by whatever on both hands. It's still the problem with the automobile, with the car, because on all those Teslas, it still seats 5. At least for Model 3s, right? You still seat 5. Most of the time, it's only one person in the car, 70% of the time, okay? Going around town, it still takes up the same amount of space and whatnot, okay? So you can have a whole bunch of people self-driving cars. You're still going to get more traffic. Again, we've talked about this, induced demand, the Bray's paradox, okay? The more roads you open up, the more traffic you get, because the more you're inducing demand for the automobile, which is what we have done in this country, okay? So now, with the problem with self-driving cars, again, you don't have this problem. Again, 16 incidents is not that big. There are probably 16 accidents or more that have happened while we've been talking in the last hour or so nationwide. Okay, there have probably been 16 accidents. I don't know. Somebody in the comments, probably Darius, you know this. How many accidents happen per hour, per minute in the United States, vehicle accidents, okay? Because it's a lot, okay? More people die to the automobile than to guns in the United States. But you do not see laws coming out to go ahead and attack the automobile. You don't see that. Why? Because it's a lot more money in the automobile. Gun makers don't make as much money as people think they do. They honestly don't. The margins are pretty slim, okay? But the automobiles, oh boy, that is one industry you do not want to mess with in the United States. Now, of course, what's happening to Elon Musk over here, and like I've mentioned before, it depends on how much the Highway Safety Administration Board wants to go with this, okay? If they really want to go, they could force, through whatever means or whatnot, force these vehicles off the road, or at the very least, maybe probably force the shutdown of the full self-driving system inside the Teslas. And again, how Musk has put this is that, it's not our fault. You are driving what is in beta form. We are not responsible for anything that happens under this system. So he has sort of a legal out. It depends on. And again, the rule of law in the United States is kind of out the window. It's whatever they want to make it at this point, right? Does the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration want to go after Musk? Do they? That's really what it comes down to, honestly. Yeah, again, you can power the car by hopes and dreams. It doesn't matter. The problem is the car. You can try to change the car. You can make the car self-driving. The self-driving car is already here. It's been here for 150 years. It's called the train. Okay, that's it. But yeah. Let's see. We do have a couple people in the audience. A good amount of people right now. We'll go ahead and CTR Lee, I believe, had his hand up, and he's been here for a while. We'll go ahead and bring him up to go ahead and speak. So, CTR Lee, you are on board.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Welcome aboard, man.
Okay, so I've been watching some of the stream, and I've been thinking some of questions lately, and you've been. So on this stream you were talking about automobiles in particular, and I noticed that some of the recent developments has been kind of all the kind of push towards electric vehicles. I think just there is something I noticed about this. Is that all this kind of push towards electric vehicles, like how I remember correctly that European Union and even Canada, they're looking to try to ban gasoline cars by a certain date. So, but what I'm saying about this is that this whole push towards electric vehicles is not going to change anything it's not going to change the status quo for how our car dependence, our infrastructure is. In fact, it is just only going to exacerbate it.
Yep, 100%.
Exacerbate problem, because all you have to factor in the charging times. Our grid isn't even able to handle all this kind of people charging for once, and not to mention that the current technology electric cars. I'm not saying that to count the merit. It certainly came very long way since the inception, but it still got a long way to go. I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that's the thing. Again, we said this before, and you're 100% right. Like we said before, the car, no matter what it's powered by, it's still the same issue. It's still the same problem. You still have people in cars, and I think you were saying in the comments as well, which is a very good point. You still have this very old misconception by our favorite generation, again, thinking that the car is freedom. You can't take away my freedom. You can't take away my car. Transit is socialism. You can't have transit. But,
yeah. What the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, talk. Huh? Yeah. Go ahead, Lee. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was asking that I noticed that this kind of mindset, like this, how cars are ultimate symbol of freedom, and any kind of investment towards public transportation is a prelude to socialism. It seems like this is kind of a uniquely American phenomenon, because I don't see this kind of things happen, this kind of mindset happening in Europe or even in Asia. Heck, if you look at it in Japan, they also have both. They have an excellent railway system, but also they also have a bustling car culture. So I don't see where this is coming from, and I've been confused the whole time.
Yeah, and again, that goes into a lot of things. Of course, you have, it starts from, sort of the bottom up, and it goes from the top down, right? There's different ways we can go about it. Number one, like we've said before, you have a generation of people built on believing that the automobile is the end-all, be-all. Okay, and that is the ultimate role of freedom. But if you look at the actual reality of it, like I said, I'm putting up the picture here of Detroit. America was never a car culture. You had the freedom. If you wanted to get a car, go ahead and get a car. If you want to take the trolley, go ahead and take the trolley. You want to take a train, take a train. You had the freedom to go anywhere you wanted to go, how you wanted to go, when you wanted to go. You were not strapped to just being in the cage, the four-wheel cage that you have to buy, that you have to get insurance for, that you have to get gas for. Okay? That was never a thing. And then second of all, it does come to a lot of the coding laws in the United States. A lot of it that has made it very easy for the automobile and automobile culture to thrive, because you don't have mixed-use development here in the United States. It's either you have just the suburbs, or just this roads, or just you know what I'm saying. And then again, if we look, and I've been looking back at older videos over here, and like I've said, the people who are opposed to this, and I'm going to put it right up over here, so you can kind of see, these are the people who are against having trains. I'll just put it real quick and fast, but notice their age.
All aboard Florida is fundamentally flawed.
There are just so many unknowns.
Yep, it's all the same age group.
Y'all wouldn't consider that.
So
Would you
boomers.
consider that?
Yeah, I'm just playing it here for
Why
the
would you
audience.
destroy our community?
Why would you destroy our community?
I see the controversy for
I mean, the best thing about what I would say is when they say my car is my freedom, that's also a saying that's here in Belgium, but we also have the freedom of choice, and that's the best freedom to have.
Exactly. That's what I've been saying.
I mean, I think I have a theory why the car culture in Japan is so big is because people, are free to choose, and that's why your cars have to be good. If you have awful cars, no one's gonna pick your car, and they're gonna pick the Shinkansen, or gonna pick the commuter train around Tokyo, where you need to be physically pushed into, because the cars are bad, and that's why you get beautiful beasts such as the Nissan Skyline GT 34. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Too Fast Too Furious guy.
That is again my favorite car out of the Fast and Furious series was the R34 Brian Skyline in Too Fast Too Furious. That was the most amazing car out of the whole entire series.
And it's also the movie that introduced me to Miami. But yeah, no.
Dude, man, we were quoting that movie when it first came out. I mean, everybody was calling each other "Ka," or everybody was making fun of anybody with hair and calling them Fonzie. It's like, haha, good one, Fonzie. Everybody was just quoting either Tyrese Gibson out of the film. I'm sorry to interject, but I mean that was one of my favorite Fast and Furious films. It just sucks that after Fast and Furious 3, like the whole entire series has just been a blur. It just sucks, and there's nothing that really stands out. Honestly, it's all terrible.
Just make it yeah. Just make a house movie with cars.
What happened?
Hello? Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Like I was previously saying that. Then we also have the kind of a that you have whenever some kind of a transportation transit project that brought up the table, and then you have this suburban carrots bringing out and said,
get those inner city scums away from our neighborhood. It's gonna bring the crime to our beautiful suburbs. Keep
Yeah,
away.
you have that, or you have like I have over here this old fud in his Hawaiian T-shirt. Which, by the way, nobody in Florida wears Hawaiian T-shirts. You don't wear that, okay? In Florida, I mean, honestly, these guys, and then you have these Karens and Kyles that are all here, complaining about you can't have this. It's socialism, or who's gonna pay for the train? Who pays for the roads? Nobody has talked about this. And again, we've I've mentioned this before. We've gone through all these meetings. We've gone through this. There is nobody under the age of 45, because this was back in 2014. So I guess 45 or so, estimating was the cutoff for the boomer generation. Nobody here that has spoken against All Aboard Florida was under the age of 45. Not one. Not one. Every single one. Every single one. Okay, and again, it's not to say that it's all of them, because you do see people that are in support of All Aboard Florida who are over the same age, but you also see a different mixture of people in different ages. You see people that are younger, like me and Darius here speaking, or you see Toga. By the way, if you guys aren't following Toga, he's still very active as well on YouTube. Go ahead and follow Toga Ibora on YouTube. But you see a whole different mix of people here at different ages supporting, back then it was called All Aboard Florida, but supporting what has essentially become Brightline. Okay? And that's the issue, when it comes to coding laws and when it comes to building anything here in the United States, which that's the sort of video that I'm getting into, talking about why you're never going to see transcontinental high-speed rail in this country ever, unless the political system changes. You are never, ever going to see it. Okay, and that's the reason why it has the coding laws in this country, the way building codes have been done, and the way that areas and stuff like that have been and so on, has made it that it is impossible to do that. And again, we were talking about like in Japan, with the car culture and stuff like that. It's a very massive car culture in Japan. There's a massive train culture in Japan. You think American foamers are one thing? You haven't seen Japanese rail fans. Okay, they are in a whole other league, man. I mean, they have gone far and beyond. But when we were there, I mean, even the highways. I was just talking to Darius about this. There were highways going right through Shinjuku, and right underneath the highways, there were restaurants, there were stores. There were like 2 stories underneath. Here's the highway, and here's 2 stories of mixed use development. Okay, you can't have that here in the United States because you can't build that there, and if you have to build that there, you have to get a whole bunch of permits. The permitting culture is ridiculous over here in this country, where it takes All Aboard Florida, as they were planning, or Brightline would have been out as they were planning in 2016. Okay, they had to be delayed by several years because these people, and I will say yes, these people, okay, the only time they call themselves the silent majority, but whenever they want to become the vocal minority is when it affects them, okay, when it directly affects their comfort, okay. And I am upset, okay, because this is the problem. We could have had Brightline a lot sooner. We could have had Texas Central Railway building right now, okay? We could have had California High-Speed Rail, even just, finally going ahead. But the problem is that you have a massive permitting culture that makes it ridiculously hard and ridiculously, over-embellished to go ahead and push this permitting culture done. All right, now I'm gonna leave it there because if not, I'm gonna get even more upset. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, because another thing we've been talking about is that, oh yeah, now come to think of it, because the very same people who try to complain about how public transit is kind of prelude to socialism. It's never they never even realize the irony is that they're driving on public roads, which is built by the government.
Yeah. No, look at this picture. Look at all the socialism in 1920s and 10s America. Really, it was more free. You didn't need a license to fish back then, okay? So I don't see what socialism everybody is complaining about through transit.
Yeah, that's what really bothering me right now. But yeah, but this is, I think, is a worthy video to talk about, and also kind of notice about the how crime is also turning a lot of people away from the transit, especially even with the pandemic kind of taking a hit. But I think the crime rate also play a factor into that, because most people are kind of scared of taking transit, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah,
that's
and again, yeah, that's like I've said before. This is pretty much an American issue that we've seen. You don't really see in more other first, if you want to call and lump the United States as a first world nation, because honestly, in infrastructure, it's not a first world nation. In some places, yes, but honestly, it's not. But when you compare it to places like in Europe or in Asia, it's a complete night and day difference in terms of crime. Okay, and yeah, I have talked to people about that, and I like I said before in an earlier live stream, one of the biggest reasons why most people, I would say after not having the convenience and availability of transit, the second biggest reason why they don't want to go on transit is, it's not safe. I don't want to be punched and somebody say call ambulance. If you guys are familiar with that video, or being harassed on public transit or being shot in the New York subway. It's very much a reality here in the United States.
True. But even to a lesser degree in Canada, it kind of, but it's kind of rare. I mean, I only remember it was a few months ago that somebody tried to push it. A woman who's trying to push another woman onto the on the subway, and that also got in the news.
Yeah.
So
and I think if you've had one in Canada, we've had like 5 just in New York alone.
Yeah.
Of just people being pushed onto the tracks in on the subway, on the MTA. Yeah, that's been a thing.
True.
And then,
okay.
No, go ahead. One last thing, because I know we've been getting a little bit more overtime on here.
Okay. So I guess this is probably it. Then I think I talked about all I want to kind of talk about.
Hey, not a problem.
All right.
No, again, thank you for coming on board, CTR. We appreciate it and appreciate the conversation that it's brought up.
Yeah, my pleasure too. I'll see you next time.
No problem.
Right.
Take care. Thank
Ciao.
you.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's see. Going into just looking at the chat real quick. Darius is shilling for velomobiles again. I guess, and I know people are saying, we need some sort of alternate. And anytime people come up with alternate transportation, like it's pod transportation, it's still not solving the problem that you need a high density transit system in the United States. Okay, it's still the same thing. Now, instead of having the car You're now combining the worst of both worlds. You're combining the worst of the train, which the worst aspect of the train is that it's stuck on fixed infrastructure, right? So now you're combining the pod with the fixed infrastructure of a train with the lower capacity of a car. So you get the worst of both worlds there. Then when it comes to things like the velomobile, okay, the only people who ride velomobiles are yuppies in suburban neighborhoods that already own like 5 cars, and they say, "Oh, look at me, I have my velomobile. Look at me, I can barely take groceries and I can barely reach over 20 miles an hour," because now you have none of the capacity that you can hold in the car, and you have none of the weight savings or the ease of use that you have in a bicycle. So again, it's the worst of both worlds for a velomobile. It's such a stupid concept. It goes back to, I want a place. You're trying to move human beings. That's the point of transportation, right? Of passenger transportation. You want to move human beings from point A to point B. Okay? Human beings, for those of us who are blessed to have legs, we can walk. Okay, or at least the usage of our legs, because there's some people who do have legs and cannot walk for numerous reasons. But I'm trying to be just getting to the point over here. Okay, if you can walk from point A to point B, that is the simplest way to go. You don't need anything. Okay, you just need to use a couple of calories to go ahead and move from point A to point B. All right. Apart from that, maybe to get on something that moves you from point A to point B, like a bus, like a train, like a tram, like a trolley. Okay. Those types of things and that's those types of modes of transportation were all over the place in the United States. You had streetcars upon streetcars upon streetcars. Again, we can go back into this talking about the GM streetcar conspiracy, and I'm gonna put it over here just for new people who are listening or aren't familiar with this or listening to the stream for the first time. I'm going to go ahead and put it on for you over here so you guys can understand what it is that I'm talking about, okay? So the General Motors streetcar conspiracy refers to the convictions of General Motors and other companies that were involved in monopolizing the sale of buses and supplies to National City Lines and its subsidiaries, and to allegations that the defendants conspired to own or control transit systems in violation of Section 1 of the Sherman Antitrust Act, okay? So what was GM trying to do over here, okay? GM is essentially... let me see if I can put up, because this is another part, Futurama. I'm not talking about the TV show. I'm talking about GM Futurama, okay? GM at the New York World's Fair in the 1939 World's Fair, if I remember. Yes, 1939 World's Fair, okay? They wanted the world and they wanted the country to basically look like this. And everything would be owned by the automobile, okay? That everybody would ride in things like this. It's not too different to what the America looks like right now. This is what GM wanted. Okay, this is Futurama. Okay, everybody look at this. There's no place to walk. You don't even see people walking that much. They're relegated to these little spaces over here. Look at that. Okay, but look at this. Miles and miles of roads. All this BS. Amount of lanes everywhere. Okay, people can only walk on top. They're subject like rats. Where's that picture? There it is. Here we go, if we can find it. Wow. There you are. The cars own the road, okay? And now people just have to walk on top of here like rats. Granted, this would have looked better than what we have, but now you don't even have that. Now people are just in these tiny sidewalks. They're not even that much, okay? Again, look at the pictures of what we had before. Again, this is why I keep saying, look at what we've had before, look at what we have now. You would know them by the fruits of their labor, okay? Look at the sizes of these sidewalks over here, okay? These are massive sidewalks. Okay, let me see if I can. I don't know why this picture's not going, but now you can kind of see it over here. Look at that sidewalk. It's about 10 shoulders across, right? Okay, it's about two car lanes worth of sidewalk. The sidewalks now in most American cities, you can barely fit in them if you even have a sidewalk. You go to suburbs in some places in America. I don't know if you've seen some of the suburbs here, Ruben, but they don't even have sidewalks. We just have places with just grass. It's just the gutter, the road, and then the grass. That's it. And that's all you got. No sidewalks. Everybody's kind of relegated to sort of walking in the gutter or sort of walking on the road back and forth, or just watching to make sure that they don't get run over by a giant lifted truck that's immaculately clean, that's never has anything in the back or never goes off-roading, anything like that. It's again, I cannot stand the truck culture over here in the United States. It's oh man.
No, I've seen new suburbs. Trust me, I've seen them. They're all grass. You're like, oh, nice homes. And then you want to walk around. Then you go like, I can't walk through this nature reserve that's literally just 3 miles away. I can't walk there. I will have to drive a car for 3 miles.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this is what happened. Again, you had streetcars that were all over the place. Again, instead of having buses that were powered by dirty diesel, emissions, which again you do need diesel for stuff like trains and stuff like that. But it's a lot easier when you have it on a train because it carries more people per mile. But regardless, instead of having clean electric trolleys, and again, this electricity could have come. Let's say, if I was, let's just say for instance I was dictator of the United States, just as let's just put it out there, pie in the sky sort of thing, right? We would have mostly nuclear energy, and streetcars that would be powered by nuclear energy, clean, just no emissions, nuclear energy that is safe and effective. Okay, because the whole thing of nuclear energy being dangerous and all that is extremely overblown, honestly. But this is what happened. We had streetcars in the United States, and this is what GM did to them. Okay, completely destroyed them. Okay, and we now are left with the cage, the four-wheel car. Okay, because GM wanted you to go ahead and buy a car. GM wanted to go ahead and sell trucks. Okay, or they wanted to trucks later on, but they wanted to sell buses. Okay, they did this in cahoots with Firestone, with a lot of oil companies as well, okay? Because, again, this was all a sort of thing. It was all conspiracy, okay? And by conspiracy, what do we mean by conspiracy? It means it's a plan that they plan to go ahead and get together to put about, okay? And they were found guilty, okay? Here we go. Court cases in decline because people keep saying, "Oh, it's just a thing." No, they were found guilty of it. They were charged $5,000 by the court systems, okay? There are 9 corporations and 7 individuals, officers and directors of certain corporate defendants, were indicted in the Federal District Court of Southern California on counts of conspiring to acquire control of a number of transit companies, and so on. 1949, Firestone Tire, Standard Oil of California, Phillips Petroleum, GM, Mack Trucks were convicted of conspiring to monopolize the sale of buses and related products to local transit companies controlled by by NCL. They were acquitted of conspiring to monopolize the ownership of these companies. The verdicts were upheld on appeal in 1951. GM was fined $5,000. And guess what? The treasurer, Grossman, was fined $1. Okay? So not only, here's the thing. The other conspirator in this is the United States government, okay? Because if you're found guilty of anything in this country, of doing something like that, you would be fined millions of dollars, you would be put in jail. But since you're GM, even back then, you get fined $5,000. $5,000 bought you 2 Chevy Bel Airs back in the 1950s, right? And the treasurer, I'm pretty sure the treasurer was making a pretty penny back then. He was probably making, maybe $70,000 back then in 1951. He was fined $1. $1! You're found guilty of conspiracy and fined $1. This is the thing. Everybody talks about, GM, and talks about Firestone, talks about Standard Oil, but they don't talk about that the other conspirator in this is the United States government. They were put into this. They let it happen. They essentially, here's a slap on the hand, you did something wrong. Now go sell us some automobiles. That's basically what they did.
I can just imagine the U.S. government going like, "No, GM, stop it. Oh no. Oh, Chevy, stop it as well. Oh no, Standard Oil. Oh no." So awful.
If I were just back then, I just would have, it ticks me off to no end because here's the evidence. I'm putting it here on a platter. Okay, this is what happens to what has happened to our economy. This is what's happened to American culture. Like we said before, repeated time and time again, because we are so dependent on the automobile. Okay, half of it was the choosing of that generation. Yes, okay, but a lot of it was also pushed on them. Did they do anything against it? No, they didn't. So in that terms, yeah, they are kind of guilty of it. Okay. If it was not for GM doing it, GM was the pusher and the catalyst of it. Okay, if it was not for GM, it wouldn't have been happening. Okay, we probably would have still had a lot of this, but we don't. Okay, But that's the thing, and now we're paying the price for it. Yeah, that's where we're at, guys. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about solutions. All right, you guys want to talk about solutions? What do you think, Ruben?
Yeah, let's go for some solutions. I mean, alcohol is a solution, but now let's fix our transits.
Yeah.
Let's look for a solution there.
Again, okay. Now, and the reason why I talk about personal solutions, because at this point, like I've said again, there are going to be places that are going to have trains, and we will. After this, we will go ahead and breathe in that Brightline copium, okay? We will. I know some of you guys are freaking out right now. We will breathe in some of the Brightline copium, but here's the thing. Millennials, and I know I keep bringing up the boomers again, but back in the 1980s, when they were our same age, they had about 30% of the economy. In 2022, the millennial generation, at the same size, at the same age as the baby boomer generation was in the 1980s, only owns 2% of the economy. So we are not going to affect that much change, okay? Especially when the so-called environmentalists are flying to Davos and the World Economic Forum in their private jets, and telling us to go ahead and eat Z-bugs. Okay, and you will have no oil. You will eat the bugs. You will get in the car. You will keep working endless hours to keep the thing going, because that's the problem. So let's talk about solutions over here. Okay, and again, when it comes to just your car right now, if most of you guys do have a car, I own a car. Okay. You need to keep your car going in order to at least get some, to keep your income going and stuff like that, okay? Because the Biden administration now wants to give you ethanol into your car, which is going to kill your car, sooner or later, especially if you have an older automobile, because they're not made to go ahead and take that much, okay? Here's something you can do. It's called octane booster, okay? And this is just one of many, Lucas Oil, again, it's all oil products, unfortunately. It's funny, we've been talking about, and attacking the oil company, and here I am going ahead and shilling for Lucas Oil for octane booster. It's the most hypocritical, ironical thing that we can do. But I'm trying to help you guys here, honestly. I'm not getting paid by Lucas Oil or anything like that. Heck, if I was getting paid by Lucas Oil, I'd still be doing this. I wouldn't be. I would be doing it under a pseudonym. But anyway, the thing is that ethanol destroys your car, and ultimately, what GM and the whole car and oil lobby want you to do is have your nice trusty older Toyota or Honda destroyed, so you can go ahead and buy another crappy automobile that's going to have planned obsolescence by 100,000 miles. So keep your car going. Okay, every other fill up or so, put an octane booster to basically sort of reverse the effects of the ethanol gunk in your oil, in your engine, clean that up and keep it going a little bit longer, and it really does help, okay? That's one thing. You're also going to have to learn how to fix your car, okay? You're going to have to use stuff, again, Seafoam also works well to go ahead and clean your engine as well. And your fuel injectors, Royal Purple, all that sort of stuff, okay? You want to make sure that's clean, okay? And know how to fix your car, okay? There's a whole lot of other channels out there. Scotty Kilmer, Chris Fix. There's a whole lot of channels out there that teach you how to fix your car. Don't go to a mechanic, okay? Because especially in the United States now, they pay by labor, and it's like $100 per hour in some of these places, or $70 per hour per labor, okay? If you know how to fix your stuff, this again, why is the United States in this problem? Because we're so dependent on the automobile. If you're dependent on using that automobile and dependent on other people to fix it, you're falling into the same trap. So make sure you yourself can be able to fix it, all right? If you can, all right? And do other things. Hike or work out. Make sure if you can't hike, start working out, okay? 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run, You don't have to necessarily do that, but ride a bike, change your lifestyle bit by bit, because I know a lot of you guys out there, and you know who I'm talking to, okay? Some of you guys can barely run a mile, All right, and I know I'm kind of speaking from a point of view, Demetrius, you can bench press 325 pounds, I'm nowhere near there. No, I don't want you to bench press 325 pounds necessarily, but I want you guys to be able to work out and keep yourself healthy, okay? Regardless, because if things are going to hit the fan, you need to be able to work on yourself, okay? You need to be able to move, okay? The other thing that we have talked about on this channel, I'm giving you guys just as much tips and tricks as possible, okay? Are you guys familiar with Liberty Gardens, okay? Because I know we've talked about that before, okay? It's called growing your own food. We said again, because the American economy is so dependent on the automobile, and you don't go out and get your food anymore by hunting for it or by growing for it, okay? The modern male has gotten their food by going ahead and going to Walmart and getting their own food from there. They take it, they put it in the cart. That is as much exertion as they put. The other exertion is putting it there. But how we had it here in the United States, back over in World War II especially, and World War I. Okay, let's see if I can get this up over here. This is a Liberty Garden. Okay, or at least part of it. And this is an urban environment. So for people saying, "Oh, I can't do that. I live in a city." You can certainly build your own gardens, okay? Grow stuff like potatoes. You can grow potatoes in a bucket, okay? You can like right now. Just in this house over here, I have a window full of green onions that are growing, okay? It's very simple. You can go ahead and get green onions for 80 cents. If whatever place you can cut, instead of throwing away the little white parts, the stems, you can put those and grow those back in the dirt and get those in again, okay? Because food is getting expensive. Okay, it's getting real expensive, guys. All right, maybe have chickens. There's this one picture I have with Holly. I'm gonna see if I can find it at some point later on the stream. But I've been talking about getting chickens for years, and then we were at Rural King, just looking there to get chickens, and I told her, I was like, we have to eat them at some point, and she looks at me, is like, "We have to eat the chickens?" And she's like looking at me like all sad. And I took a picture of her, just like, keep that face. Let me just take a picture. But people don't understand, where their food comes from anymore. Just what was it? Last week we did have, and again, we talked about this in the earlier stream about the supply chain failing, about, all these fires that are happening. And about 70% of you said that this was, there's something a lot more to this, okay? And there has been information. Yes, this has been increasing over and over. There are gonna be some channels over there that are going to say, "Oh, we actually looked at the data, and it's because people are paying more attention to supply chain failures that now they're..." No, it's not just that we're paying more attention to it. It has been actually increasing. There have been more fires at these places. There have been more sort of these accidents happening. Okay, so you are going to have access to your own food, unless you're ready to pay $10 a pound for 70% lean beef later on. You're going to be paying $30 for a package of beef. I'm sorry for the people in Canada that are already paying a lot more, but yeah, that's going to happen. And then sort of having commodities, silver, my favorite of brass and lead, if you know what I'm talking about. Having this sort of stuff, okay, because inflation is getting and catching up to us, okay? Things I know some people have asked, having crypto, nostalgia bait like Pokemon cards and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily put my stuff into there, honestly, myself, okay? It's not to say that, the world's going to go into Mad Max mode and you're not going to have electricity, so you can't get your Bitcoins out. There will still be electricity some way or another, but, you can't eat a Bitcoin. Let's put it that way, right? And then the other last thing that I put on here on my notes, like I've said before, it is getting violent out there, okay? We have seen in the... where is that? I have so many tabs open. There we are. We are seeing in the New York subway and places like that, you're seeing more fights, okay? And here's why, okay? It's, again, like I said before, there's no debate. Okay, the debate to defend yourself with whatever means necessary. If the United States government, which here's the thing, if I don't have to be told by a government that left millions of arms in Afghanistan, okay, and then asked us to pay $40 billion to go ahead and send more arms to the undefined country in the undefined region that we cannot name because of YouTube. You know exactly what I'm saying. To tell us that we can't own stuff. No. Okay? And here's the thing. If everybody had something, or you don't even have to have a firearm. If people were just more aware and out there and willing to defend, instead of having this poor woman attacked on the train, this wouldn't be happening. Okay? But I am telling you, go ahead. If you don't have a gun, and you can buy one, do get one. Okay? You are going to have it. Now, I'm not saying, again, get training for it. That's the most important thing. But yeah, why should you? Well, here's the other thing. And I've mentioned this before, again, because this is all because of our dependence on the car, our dependence on oil. Rising gas prices are impacting first responders. Okay, well, go ahead, Ruben, while I put this to play.
You're talking about get a weapon and blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's just, let's be honest here, there's a high degree of individualization going on. So it's not just about, get a gun and be ready to shoot someone, but, it's also known thy neighbor.
Yeah.
With Liberty Gardens, I'm just thinking about it. It could also offer new opportunities. We were talking about Detroit, or Detroit was, I think the richest city in the Western Hemisphere on a certain point in time.
Yeah, it was the richest city in the world in the 1950s.
Yeah. So, Detroit, if you look at it, lots of houses have been, disappearing, burned down, destroyed, and nothing, a lot of vacant lots. And I would think, Detroit would be... Some people in chat are now going to call me insane, but Detroit could be the start of something new, Imagine if you would improve, city guarding in cities as Detroit, sustainability, and then spark new affordable housing. That would, it would spark a revolution. And it's also important these gardens also should be a place for communities, because it's important to come as a community together. And that's the most important part. And Stephen, I just see your comments, saying, so let me get this straight. If the woman who was attacked on the train had a gun, it wouldn't have happened. I don't think a gun would have prevented it. It would have changed the outcome, that's a fact. I think what's happening is just everyone is sitting in their own bubble, their own cubicle in the subway, just like, oh no, someone's getting attacked, I'm not going to do anything.
No, you're absolutely right.
Stepping up in such a situation requires a large amount of courage, to say like, hey, stop assaulting a woman. It's weird, but that requires a lot of courage. But if you have more tightly connected community, and of course what I'm saying here is extremely complex and not easy to be done, but imagine if you could improve this sensing of community, A, antisocial behavior would be less, prone to happen, and B, it would be less accepted to happen, and C, there would be a larger chance of someone just stepping and saying like, hey dude, fuck off, don't assault a woman.
Yeah, hopefully we don't get demonetized for that one there, but yeah, look, and again, you're don't worry, man. You're absolutely right. And again, it comes. I was gonna get into there about community. That's the number one thing. Have people that you can trust. Okay, because here look, in a high trust society, as the United States used to be back then, when we had trains and we had constant interaction with other people and like-minded individuals and people dressed up nicely. If that sort of thing were to happen here, again. Somebody saying would not happen in look what happened with Texas. Well, here's what happened with Texas. All right, and again we'll talk about that. Let me just first mention on here. If that same sort of attack happened in New York, if that same sort of thing happened back over here in Detroit like that, immediately there would have been 5 guys that say, okay, buddy, settle down here, mister, and just put him up, or they probably would have punched him and threw him out of the train with everybody else clapping, and 2 guys holding two legs, and then 2 other guys holding his other feet, and then like 1, 2, 3, and throwing him right out the train. Okay, that's what would have happened back then. It has to do with community. Now, I can defend myself very well. I'm very confident in myself. I can defend myself without a firearm. I can defend myself a hell of a lot better with one, okay? But that's what I'm talking about. It has to do with the outlook and the way of things are, okay? And community here in the United States, because we're so individualized and atomized in the automobile, because of this, and again, it has to do the destruction of morals in the United States, the destruction of the family unit, etc., etc. That's a whole lot of other things that we can go on to there. But the car was one of the major catalysts. that pushed in this individualization. Again, you see these changes coming about starting, the seed was planted there in the late 1940s after World War II, and started to sprout in the 1950s. And then it really, pushed out of the ground in the 1960s. That's when you really started to see, its ugly, disgusting rear head coming out and really starting to destroy the fabric of the United States. Okay? In the automobile, and again, they try to push things like carpooling. Go with your friends. Nobody carpools, okay? Nobody carpools. Don't tell me that, carpooling will help and that's a great solution. No, nobody carpools. They've been trying to push it for 30 years. Nobody does it, okay? Again, it has to do with the car. Because you're there alone in your car. To go ahead, you live in a place that's 20 miles away from your work. You have to rush, eat crap, get in the car, drive to work, get in the cubicle. Go ahead, type out BS that you're pushed out. There's a video, a meme video out there that's really good. Somebody made like one of these Wojak videos. I forgot the channel right now, but if you guys have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. That's the lifestyle that has been created from the automobile. You would not have this sort of bullshit job economy. I might as well just say it, because at this point I don't know if we're gonna get monetized or not. But we have this BS economy that's really pushed on by the automobile. You don't have, like how people used to be before, family type of units or family businesses that were like if your father fixed shoes or made shoes for a living, in a mom and pop shop, down in the apartment over here. You probably lived upstairs and you went downstairs and went with them. But after the 1950s and the 1960s, you saw the same generation again. Change that whole entire thing. I don't want to be a shoemaker. I don't want to work in a factory. That's for poor people. I'm gonna be somebody with a college degree. I'm gonna get a BS college degree, and then I'm gonna work in an office, and then I'm gonna become a middle manager, and then make it hard on anybody younger than me. That's basically what most of the economy is based on now. Okay, so you're doing BS Excel sheets and PowerPoints for your boss. Instead of going ahead and making shoes or making, parts for trains or something like that, or growing food in your backyard or something like that, or having like a family farm for your town or something like that. Not everything, or making clothes or textiles, something like that, because I just saw textiles on there. That's the problem with the economy, because now you can't get, you're not going to go ahead and get shoes by the people that are made. There's a shoe place here in Indianapolis, and Holly's family is very connected to the city that they used to go to, that these guys used to actually make their shoes. That store now still exists. It's been there for 100 years, but they don't make their own shoes anymore. Now they get their shoes out from China or from, India or other places. That's the problem, because the country is so atomized. And again, that comes back to the car, because where do most people spend their time? In the automobile, to go to a cubicle. You are alone for most of the day. Okay, even if you're extroverted, you are alone for most of the day, because that's the way we've made it. Okay, you don't see this sort of image over here anymore in the United States. You don't. Okay, and that's the reason why, the automobile. Okay, like I said, going back to talking about what happened in Texas. So let's talk about this, about why what's going on, and why rising gas prices are making it harder now. Let's just go ahead and play this real quick. It's about a minute.
Closer to a national average of $5 a gallon. The record high gas prices causing all sorts of problems nationwide, including in one town where police are changing the way they actually respond to calls. Alex Perez is in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Alex, good morning.
Hey, good morning. With gas prices are so high, the Isabella County Sheriff's Office here says they've actually blown through their fuel budget already, so they will respond to some non-emergency calls by phone, try to resolve those issues by phone. Now, the national average for a gallon of gas hovering at just under $5 at $4.97 a gallon right now. Here in Michigan, gas prices have set a record high for 7 consecutive days. And according to AAA, many might be trying to stretch out whatever gas they have. The company says in April they responded to more than 50,000 out of gas calls. That's a 32% increase from the same period last year. Now,
let's stop it right there. 50,787 out of gas calls. Okay, that's just now. Okay, because this is just started. Okay, and that's just for non-emergency stuff. So again, because this economy is so dependent on oil, So depending on the automobile, because cops don't go ahead and move on. You don't really see that many on the street beat cops now anymore. You don't see that unless places like some places like in New York or whatnot. And if not, they're in their little those ugly little jock straps and their silly little helmets on motorcycles. Okay, you don't see the cool ones in horses anymore. Not or less. The horses don't even like riding anymore because they're surrounded by cars. It ticks them off. But here's the thing. So now you can't even, this is the problem, okay? Again, what happened in Texas and what happened everywhere else, cops are now picking and choosing when and what to dispatch to because of the gas shortage and the amount of gas prices. So now even if they get there 15 minutes later to go ahead and play the cleanup crew, okay, and then go ahead and charge you for a crime, they're going to wait outside for an hour and a half while children are screaming, Again, the concept of a massively armed peace officers is a fairly new one. This is very much a concept that has come up because of our modern society. I wouldn't necessarily blame it on the car, but it's very much, the police officers are very much dependent on their car. Okay, their car is everything to them, more or less, to get to places to point A to point B. Back then, most community issues were solved amongst themselves, okay? Most of human history, okay, as you will. All right? So that's the problem, okay? Because our communities are atomized, mainly due to the catalyst of the automobile. It has destroyed the fabric of American moral society. All right? That's pretty much a summary of this thesis, if you want to put it there.
But,
so that's it. So I don't want to hear again, from anybody in the comments that, so you're telling me if they had a gun that it would have changed. I'm telling you that if they had a community that actually cared, of people that actually were willing to stand up, with that, a gun would have definitely have made a difference too. Okay, but it has to come to the community, right? And it's like, I forget who this quote is attributed to, but an armed society is a polite society. I forget who that was. I was sort of getting past the whole trains thing. At this point, I should make a podcast called Bullets and Bullet Trains. Hey, I like bullets. I like bullet trains. Hey, there you go. It could be a podcast idea. I don't know.
I mean, talking about trains, there's a next article or something else about trains we can quickly railroad ourselves to?
Yes, let's talk about Brightline. Let's talk about some good news about Brightline. If I can go ahead and find it up over here now. I've gone into everything, but I haven't talked about there. So yeah, some good things we have about Brightline. Let's get the copium in, guys. Let's breathe in that copium. I'm gonna get a different drink over here. I'm gonna get one of these things that I got from Aldi and close out. I've been just doing all my shopping in Aldi. I only go to 4 places at this point. One of them is visiting Holly's family. The other is going to Aldi. The other is going to the state park nearby to hike, and the other is going to church. That's it. I only go to 4 places now. I don't really drive that much places anywhere. But they had this organic apple cider vinegar sparkling soda, so let's... There we are. Breathe in the copium, guys. Breathe in the Brightline. Brightline is here to make your night a little brighter. Here we are. The U.S. has done something right. They are awarding nearly $16 million for Brightline to Tampa's route. And I haven't talked much about the route. I want to kind of talk about that in a later video, talking about that. But Brightline has picked a route. Not the one I probably would have picked myself, but that's sort of the one that they're going to. But it's at this point. But they're going to pay for half of the engineering cost for the federal grant for the planned 67-mile Tampa to Orlando train route along the I-4 corridor. Okay, so that's good. Now, $16 million. That's a lot of money to us, but that's peanuts in terms of not only what Brightline should be getting, but in terms to what, I don't know, maybe the airline companies get, every other day. It's definitely peanuts, but it's still something that is very much to what they use. So you have that here. Okay, so Transportation Secretary Pete, as he finally woke up and did something, announced $368 million in grants for 46 projects nationwide through the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program. Okay, so that's at least something. All right, now it's good that these sorts of programs are getting in, but it's definitely a far cry to what has been needed and what is necessary in order to push the country to what it really needs to reach in terms of rail transportation, particularly passenger rail transportation. All right, and there also have been talks of taking Brightline maybe close to 150 miles an hour on the Brightline on the corridor in Tampa, but that's definitely one thing that is good. Ruben, anything you want to talk into here about?
About Brightline in Orlando, well, I'm following that project pretty closely thanks to the Roman Rail fan, his amazing drone footage.
Yeah.
And when reading on Brightline, I just remembered like a few streams ago when I was still in Estonia, about which route should Brightline take? Should they go for Disney World or should they go for Universal Studios? They were like, and turns out they just went both. It's pretty amazing. And the best part of what I think about this is how Brightline is just looking at Sunrail and goes, hey, they're a good partner. Because thanks to Sunrail or something I think it's Sunrail?
Yeah, Sunrail.
Yeah, Sunrail. They're going to connect to downtown Orlando, so that's going to be amazing. You could take the train to the airport, to Sunrail, or, connect with Brightline and other possibilities. So this is going to be important for some significant and durable transit-oriented development in Orlando, and it's also going to connect to some very, very interesting attraction pools in the area. And the I-40 corridor, it's a bit bendy, but if it works, it works. And I'm curious what they're going to do in Tampa itself, but $60 million in studies. That's a good thing because most of the time studies are the most time-consuming aspect of a construction project. It's kind of weird how, with $60 million, how you can actually speed up things, because if you have a faster study, you get your permits faster, which you can actually speed up construction. So as you said, $16 million might sound like peanuts, but when it comes to bureaucracy, it's basically a steroid boost to the entire project. And I'm looking. This is something very, very positive, and I'm looking forward to this.
I'll definitely toast to that. That is something that is finally moving forward with that. Let's get some of the. And this is kind of talking about the larger discussion at play here in the stream, but talking about the terrible consequences of the automobile and its consequences have been a disaster for the United States. To quote a certain in the woods uncle there, or paraphrase it. But yeah, here we go. So Brightline and Broward law enforcement are launching a zero tolerance program to help curb crashes. As you guys have known, I'm pretty sure everybody has known about this. Brightline has had an issue with cars because cars can be able to move in different directions and trains are sort of stuck between moving forward or backward on a certain fixed place. Cars have been having this sort of issue and let's say they've had a habit of putting themselves in front of the Brightline train and then standing there or moving right in front of the train at the perfect time. In terms of any place else they could have been on a 2D plane or in any space and anywhere they wanted to be, they wanted to be in front of an 80-ton train that's moving at nearly 80 miles an hour. So at least the Broward County Police Department or the Broward County Sheriff's Office, when they're not standing in front of schools doing nothing, watching as kids get shot. I'm sorry, I had to say that, honestly. It's about time that people need to start, defending for themselves. But anyway, enough talking about the failures of law enforcement. Let's talk about the failures of the automobile and its and how it's been affecting Brightline. But anyway, this has been going on and on. You've had people getting in front of the train either because they have no clue what's going on and can't hear that a train is honking, or because most of the time, 9 out of 10, they are selfish and I need to get in front of the train and get to my point of place quicker before the train. So they get struck. A lot of them either get hurt or killed. Most of the time they do get killed. So now Brightline officials said the gates were down, signaling the oncoming train. Brightline has done everything they have been doing in order to get this. And I know people keep saying, well, why can't they just, raise the right-of-way? Why can't they just build it a bridge? They're going to build a 200-mile-an-hour bridge all along the eastern coast of Florida? No. You know how expensive that is, and the state's not going to pay for it. The trains were here before. The eastern coast of Florida would not exist if it were not for the Florida East Coast Railroad. The railroad was there before. The roads were built afterwards. So in that sense, it's the road's fault, okay? And the cars ultimately for getting in front of the trains, okay? So now they're actually going to head and see if they can be able to do this. In addition to the new enforcement initiative, making sure that, people who are doing that, they are going to get fined if they stop on the tracks, blocking the tracks. That means if they're getting fined and they're getting violations, they can't try to go ahead and sue Brightline over there because now they're in the legal red, okay? Because even though they got $205 violation, $165 fine, that's not really that much in terms of how fines can go, but that's not from that. The real cost of that goes into that you cannot sue Brightline for getting on their own private property. So at least there it tries to push people away from doing this. Since I guess lives are cheap in South Florida. Well, a cheap fine will turn you around. People will change. Honestly, people got upset with the red light, the traffic, the red light cameras, which is a very terrible thing. Honestly, it's a very cheap way for law enforcement to to keep their budget going. But maybe this, they can't do anything about it. What are they going to do? Remove the train? So. I'm not going to say anything else, but anyway, that's what it is. So, and they are applying for a $45 million federal grant to pay for safety enhancements at railroad crossings. That will probably include more fences at some more heavily trafficked areas where pedestrians, it's even worse if you're a pedestrian, if you're walking, you have no excuse to get out of the train at that point, honestly. You're walking in, you can feel the train on the ground rumbling, you can hear it coming through, you can hear the whistling. But yeah, it has happened, especially in Florida where there was I think it was a CSX train in Lakeland. One woman, not like she was, gonna move anywhere anyway. She was about like maybe 5'4" and about the weight of a linebacker in the NFL. But she had her headphones in, moving about. If she moved any slower, she would have been moving backwards in time. But the train was going at literally 5 miles an hour, honked its horn multiple times. And this woman was still going in the lane. So, people are just dumb. Sometimes that's just what it is. Okay, other good news for Florida. Brightline's Boca Raton station is slated to open in the fall. They're going to close some roads to continue work on that. The same thing has been happening in Aventura. There's really not that much to talk about over here except that it's basically going to look like most other Brightline stations. If you guys have seen it, they're very nice looking stations. But according to this, it's going to be a 4.5 story station with at least the parking garage, 455 space parking garage. I know people are asking why they're going to have a parking garage. Unfortunately, there's no other way to get to it. This is the consequence of having an automobile culture. But at least with that, let's say if somebody lives in Boca Raton, they can drive over to the station and then take the train over to Orlando or over to Tampa or down to Miami. Okay. So now it's at least opening that up. And Brightline does have their Brightline, I believe, Plus, it's what it's called, if I recall correctly. Is it Brightline Plus, Ruben, or what the program is called?
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't blame you if you don't know it, man. I'm the one that should be on top of these things.
I know a lot about everything.
Yeah. But regardless, so Brightline has a program that if you live within X amount of miles, like 5 miles from the station, they will send you a lift car for free or a bus for free to take you over to the station. So you don't have to be thinking about, okay, well, I have to take transit over here and there's no transit in Boca Raton to take me to the station or something like that. So they're trying to fill the gaps for you, right? Because they understand that for people to use a train, there's one thing about getting a train from point A to point B. But there's another thing of going from the station to now finish your ultimate, where you're trying to get to point Z. Okay? And, in places like Japan and Europe and all that, you can go from, let's say, high-speed rail to then regional rail and then down to a transit train and then walk over to your destination, like, 1 or 2 blocks. Okay?
Yeah.
You don't have that in the United States at that level. Not anymore.
I'm watching the Brightline. It's Brightline Plus, and
it is Brightline Plus.
Yeah, it's private rides, but also basically walk-up shuttles. Basically, it kind of reminds me of the I'm gonna say the good olden days, where railroad companies would also invest in local streetcar networks to provide service to and from the train stations. So it's interesting how tricks from the 19th and 20th century are just catching up again back in the 21st century. So
yeah,
that shows good ideas just don't die out.
There's a demand for trains. Okay, and the last we'll talk about the last Brightline article. Then there's one good article out of California that we'll go into. So Brightline is aiming to start Orlando service by this Christmas, as Wes Edens, the president of Fortress, or the CEO of Fortress, the investment firm that owns Brightline, is saying. And he's been very involved with Brightline. You don't really see that many investment firms, CEO or anything like that, or any high-level, C-level executives really involved with their projects or their companies in this day and age in the United States. You really don't. Wes Edens is one of those very few that really do. Okay? But yeah, he's saying that, would do that. And he's also telling... this was from an article from the Washington Post that is also linked here. This is from trains.com. That there are 20 city pairs that would make sense for similar operations in Brightline. So he's saying, again, testing for Brightline, the first place that makes sense is in Florida. Okay, with the amount of growth that's been going on in Florida, with the absolute demand and necessary need for some sort of rail transportation in Florida, it has been beyond needed in Florida for at least 30 years. So at least finally, something is going on in Florida to really get that done. So yeah, this is what's going on, and we'll talk about a little bit about the Washington Post live event later on. That's something I've been thinking of maybe doing a reaction to later on in the week to try to get some more videos in there. But yeah, so there are other 20 city pairs that they want to do it. Now, they may get it for Christmas. I think they can. Honestly, the infrastructure's already done. They're just doing some final testing here and there. If they really wanted to get it done by Christmas, they absolutely can. But let's see where that goes. Some other things here. So the use of highway medians for right-of-way is planned for Brightline's eventual extension to Tampa and much of the Las Vegas, Southern California route, or also known as Brightline West. I don't know if the name will stay Brightline West. They previously bought the Desert Express, which was the same plan to go ahead and connect what would ultimately be Los Angeles to Las Vegas, or at least for the onset Victorville to Las Vegas. But yeah, that's what's going on. And then the biggest challenge in rail infrastructure says the actual project that is on the precipice of getting permitted from Vegas to LA started actually 15 years ago. Again, permitting, like I said before, the permitting process in the United States has been ridiculous, okay? Because there's so much red tape, so much bureaucracy, so many codes, okay? You look at the United States code and you look at the United States laws, I could fill the entire neighborhood, okay? This entire block with all the books of it, okay? I've seen pictures of it, and I've seen some, some offices that have, some books of the United States code. The books are literally this big. Okay, it's stupid how many laws that we have in the United States for just stupid things. Okay, so much for the country that supposedly went ahead and pushed on for a revolution. No taxation without representation, and now taxes itself to death basically. But yeah, this is the permitting process. It takes 15 years for this sort of project to go on, just from the permits. Not even from the construction hasn't even started. So they got involved within 3.5 years ago. I remember talking about this 3.5 years ago, back in 2018 in the summer, talking about Las Vegas, the Desert Express getting bought. Oh man, that was a much better time in life, that was, but anyway, I'm not going to get into that. The total cost, the hard dollar cost, by the time we get our permits and are ready for construction will be about $550 million. I think if you want to see this happen in a lot of places, I do, we have to make it a little bit easier for people to access. Let's, again, this will be coming up in the later video that I'm talking about why high-speed rail will never, why transcontinental high-speed rail or the map of the national high-speed rail system is never, ever going to happen in the United States unless we change the way politics and our political system in this country. The whole political system from the top down needs to change. But yeah, this is what's going on. And speaking of California, since we are talking about California and Los Angeles, you know, there has been some moves over in it. I got this article from the Facebook channel. From the Facebook group. Glendale streetcar is on track to break ground by 2026. Okay, so Glendale, California, you know, it's in the Los Angeles area. So it's 3 miles from between downtown and the Glendale Transportation Center. So that's a good thing. You know what's funny? If you look at here in this picture, if I can just move this a little bit more, look, you look at the gas prices over there, and it's $4.92 for gas. I'm sorry, no. I apologize, guys. That was completely wrong. That's not gas. That's public parking spaces available. It might as well be gas at this point. Look, $4.92, $5.23, $9.40. That's actually cheap for California at this point. But anyway, yeah, but look, again, California used to have a very extensive streetcar system that used to be able to get anywhere in California. In fact, that was the major area that GM targeted was Los Angeles, because they knew Los Angeles was the fastest growing city at that time in the United States. Now people are fleeing, you know, escape from Los Angeles now, or escape from California in total, and for some reason going to Idaho, you know, of all places. But I'm not going to even get into that. But regardless, you know, California used to have an extensive streetcar system, is now destroyed. The only problem with the streetcars, again, breaking down by 2026. If this country didn't have the stupid coding laws, and again, the coding laws are basically meant for the older generation to keep their suburb homes, and more or less for the companies to be able to make it easier for them to sell garbage real estate that's not mixed use and keep, you know, with these ghost real estate. Because there's a lot of houses and real estate in the United States that's basically empty. It's just mainly there for foreign investors and other large time investors to just keep cycling through. Because again, in this country, and that they really started again with the baby boomer generation. Instead of a house being a place to live, we could invest in this house and flip houses. Okay, that's something that I agree should be gotten rid of. A house is not an investment. A house is a place to live in. Okay, you know, you can go as libertarian as you want against me about that, but it messes up the market. It's something that shouldn't be happening. Okay. But here we go, and this is, you know, it's a nice map to start out with. But this was something that would have been built within months, 100 years ago. Okay, you're gonna tell me that the United States can't build this, or you know, can't build something like this? We have to wait 4 more years from now to break ground, and then it will probably take another 4 or 5 years for a loop. Okay, but it's a good thing at least that there's demand for it, right? That's why I keep talking about these things. There's demand for it. That means that our generation now, we want these sort of things to happen. It's going to be harder because the last generation does not want to give up control. Okay? They're going to keep trying to live until 120 if they could. Okay? You look at the demographics of the United States in terms of, you know, who's living now and who's in Congress. Okay? And it is a very skewed level of who's in power right now. Okay? But it's falling apart. It's finally about to fall apart. Okay, I'm not reveling in that, but you know, I'm just saying it cannot last that much longer. Okay, we are seeing the destruction of it, but now finally we're seeing we do have demand for this. We do have demand.
Yeah, there's definitely demand. You know, I'm just gonna interrupt here because, you know, I'm gonna be like, seize the day. If you're gonna talk rebelling, I'm gonna rebel as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but you know, I'm looking at the LA Metro list of. It's interesting, you know, they're gonna have the gay line, you know, the Crenshaw line, and you know, the regional connector, the line extension, which is the subway. But then if you go lower, it just gets, I'm not gonna say it's gonna get awful, but there's so many planned projects in the LA region that are necessary. But for example, converting the current G line BRT into a light rail, you know, for when that project is planned?
No.
They're gonna convert a very, very successful BRT that was supposed to be a light rail, but 1990s NIMBYism prevented that. The budgets provide that they're gonna start the entire project in 2051. That's around 29 years from now on. They're gonna start the
2050?
project.
I don't even think
And
they're
they're
gonna even
gonna-
remember that there was a project slated for 2050.
Yeah, and if and they're gonna finish the project in 2057, but knowing California probably gonna be 2060 when it's finished.
I was gonna say
And then
at this point, the California high-speed rail is not gonna be here until like if humanity even lasts that long at this point, until like 2100. But anyway,
I mean that's the thing about we're talking about politics need to change, but I think there are ambitious politicians, but they're not yet to the front line.
yeah,
Already.
they don't have enough power. Like there are some millennial age politicians out there, like the mayor of Miami, the city of Miami. Shoot, I just forgot his name right now. I'm gonna look that up. But anyway, he's a very ambitious guy. I will give him credit, and he was the only one when we were planning for the Miami Maglev. Okay, which at some point I will get back to try to push that project. At the very least, to just get the idea out there. Okay, because most likely it probably won't happen. All right, I'm being very realistic, guys. All right, that sort of project is too ambitious for the little minds in the commissioner's office. All right, I'm not trying to make myself big or anything over here, but it's true. Okay, because the only commissioner, Francis Suarez, that's his name, Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, when he was still a commissioner, we invited all the commissioners about a month before we were gonna have this. And you can see the video on YouTube if you look up Miami Maglev FIU meeting. The only commissioner that came in was, at that point, Commissioner Francis Suarez, who is now the mayor of Miami. Now, he is very ambitious. He's trying to look for ideas. Okay, there are some good ideas that he has of trying to improve Brightline's connections and stuff like that. And there's some silly ideas like trying to get the Elon Musk boring company over to go ahead and build a tunnel between the mainland and the beach. Okay, which that's not gonna. It took like what? It was like $500 million to get the tunnel. Between just the little tunnel that they have between downtown and the port of Miami, which is not that long. It's about like a quarter mile, half a mile tunnel. Okay, and digging under Miami is pretty difficult. Okay, because of the water table and tunnel over there. You dig down 7 feet, and I've done it before, and you're already hitting sand and water. Okay, but the thing is, like, you have places like the Netherlands, okay, and Ruben, you're in that area. The most expensive project after all the rail projects in the United States was the one that they built in the Netherlands. That went over budget, but nowhere near the price of what it was still what we built for just the Q Avenue extension was nearly 6-10 times the cost of what they built over in the Netherlands. Okay. A city that is, literally 5 feet underwater, okay? Or 5 meters or so underwater. I forget the exact number, okay? But they were able to build an underground subway in the Netherlands, okay? So don't tell me we can't do that same thing here.
Yeah, that's the north-south.
Ruben, I think your internet just crapped out there, or your mic.
Is it better now?
Yeah, now it's better.
Okay, it looks like my microphone is being hacked by Russia. But anyway, it's a north-side project in Amsterdam. Amsterdam 1970s built a lot of metros above ground, or they used cut and cover, basically destroy all parts of the town, or socially inept parts of the town, destroy the homes, build a tunnel, and then rebuild. But of course, historical buildings, when you try to demolish them, people are not so happy. So that's why they had to use some very advanced techniques, such as tunnel boring machines with freezing techniques. And they also got to know is that when they went through the central station, a lot of old buildings in Amsterdam were built on wooden poles that were hit into the swamp grounds, because Amsterdam is one big swamp
below
sea level. So it was extremely technically challenging, it was expensive, it wasn't easy, it took delays, but they got it done. So when you're gonna build tunnels in areas such as Amsterdam or Miami, especially Miami is gonna be notorious because that's basically the entire part of southern Florida is basically one big beach that somehow is above sea level.
More like a big giant swamp with the beach. That's basically most of it.
Yeah, so that's gonna make things extremely expensive. So yeah, that's why probably above ground building is gonna be popular for a long time in southern Florida or in Miami. So yeah, but to jump back to California about ambition, the Glendale streetcar is interesting. I'm seriously standing for the OC streetcar as well. So if you look back at Southern California, there's a lot of building going on. You have LA Metro that somehow is on steroids expanding their network, but if they could get the proper budget, they could go faster. Then you have the Glendale streetcar, then you have the OC streetcar, then you have San Fernandino building their light rail. It's insane. So, I'm not gonna take the Brightline copium. I'm gonna take opium because we've been talking about the car is awful and blah 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 blah, but slowly but surely there are also alternatives slowly arising. So whenever something good happens, it's also important to see that hey, things could be better and things will be better, but it's gonna take time, and it's up to us to make sure that progress gets a little bit faster when it comes to that.
No, you're absolutely right on that. I should change that. I'm wrong in saying that it is copium. It is hopium, okay? Because you have things like that happen. Like you said, and I know a lot of people have beat against the Amsterdam Metro project for the North-South line because of the cost of it. But like you said, they had to use a whole lot of newer technology that hasn't been used before. Okay, in order to go ahead and build this without causing massive destruction to the surface above. And look at what they're building. Again, this is an area of the world that is technically underwater. Okay, and the way that they built it in there, and look at that. They have a massive station over here, with full-on transit trains going in back and forth. Which just to say as a side note, by the way, since you were you were losing connection over there, it did kind of sound like a bear on a unicycle on the other side when you were breaking off. So it may have been the Russians. I don't know, but anyway, and yeah, that's the sort of thing that happens. I'm very much in the camp that a lot of the older technology that we've had access to is definitely leagues ahead than what we've been asked. Because look at how the United States was built back in the Gilded Age. With like New York City, with the building of the subway, with the building of the overseas highway, with all the way up to the building of the Empire State Building. Okay, they built those things very quickly, and they're still standing today. Okay, and you look at places like in Rome. Okay. There are roads in Rome that have been lasting for nearly 3,000, 2,000 years, okay, and they didn't have oil back then, okay. They used concrete they used a recipe of concrete that we don't even know or remember or have access to, okay, because it got lost somewhere or we can't figure it out or we can't reverse engineer it, okay. But it's still standing. Heck, there are underwater cities from the Roman era that are still standing there. Okay, because if our modern concrete, it would fall apart in salt water very easily. It will crumble like a crouton. Okay, but these things are still standing. Okay, but yet in our modern day and age, with our our vast connection to technology, We can't even figure out a station, measure a station right, okay? And we're talking about, back then people, I mean, you look at, I just brought this up, I don't know, because there was a YouTube short that came up with the Parthenon, the Greek Parthenon, okay? We're talking about a structure that's 3,500 years old or something like that, okay? Or 2,500 years old, right? They didn't have calculators back then. They didn't have 3D CAD back then, okay? No computer-assisted drawings. They didn't have SolidWorks or anything like that back then, okay? they made this to the point that it's still standing there, but it's not actually straight when you actually look at it. It's curved ever so slightly. Okay, that when you look at it from far away, it actually looks perfectly straight. Okay, so it's sort of an optical illusion that they did. Okay, and it's still there. The optical illusion is still the same. The structure is still mostly there. Okay, they did this with just their head. Okay, and their own, figuring out stuff back then. They didn't have the metric system back then, so we can't say that the metric system is on top of everything. But regardless, this is the type of stuff that they were able to make. Look, okay, again, there's a certain curvature that they were able to make to keep this optical illusion perfectly straight. And yet, like like we've talked about this again, we love beating on the Miami airport station that the builders, forgot to really measure or actually get it out the first time around in order to fit Amtrak trains. So Amtrak has not been able to visit that station for a while, unless now finally, we were just talking about this, just in April of this year, finally, Amtrak has figured out that they can finally get their trains to fit in there perfectly, because afterwards, the city of Miami they figured out a way to go ahead and elongate the station because they weren't able to fit Amtrak trains in there when it was supposed to be for there. Okay, so now they finally got that in there. Okay, so again, Amtrak realized a little late that the platforms were too short. Okay, this was because of Miami. And again, this was a $2 billion project that they did. Okay, so a massive amount of money only to get it wrong. Due to what was basically a mammoth screw up. Mammoth, that's an embellishment of it. The rear end of an Amtrak train would have to stick way out into traffic along the Northwest 25th Street like the 1,100-foot-long metal Kim Kardashian. That's a funny analogy, but yeah, this is basically what the Amtrak train is. They're barely able to fit now because they went ahead and elongated it just a bit more and changed the way that the traffic goes around. But yeah, they finally fixed it after nearly 7 years. They finally got an Amtrak train into there, which was what it was supposed to be. But yeah, this is 21st century. Can't even figure out a $2 billion ugly looking, because this is ugly. Okay, this is not gonna last. 2100. This is not gonna be here. Okay, but the Parthenon is still there. The Parthenon's there. A lot of Roman architecture is there. We could have had a beautiful station like the original Penn Station, which the Penn Station was a Greco-Roman structure, more to look like this, a timeless structure, okay? Literally just still, could have been still standing there, but they went ahead and made the ugly, disgusting, dirty new Penn Station, which is horrible. They've kind of rectified it with the Moynihan Station, but it is never going to be the same. That is something that is completely lost to time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Demetrius, by the way, so talking about waiting for 7 years, how about we let someone from the audience in?
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of lost to time, I've really been getting into time there, unfortunately, yeah. Okay, guys, I am sorry about that. Let's go ahead and bring in somebody from the audience. I believe Starforce had his hand up first. We'll go Starforce, then David, and then Aegis. That's what we'll do. We are done with the article, so that's a good thing, guys. We are done with that. I hope you all have learned about a little bit more about why the car and the automobile has destroyed America, but we may talk about that a little bit more in the audience. We'll go into the chat, and I know this has been a long stream. Like I said from the beginning, this was the stream that needed to be long. So I hope we're all enjoying it. Ruben, it's not too far past bedtime there, right?
I mean, it's already past 4:20, so it's 4:37 in the morning.
Oh man, past 4:20. Oh man, I'm sorry, man, but hey, we planned it out like this, right? So we'll get going. Okay, Starforce, I'm gonna invite you to speak. You're gonna be up. Welcome aboard, Starforce.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Well, I did want to just kind of give an update on my living situation. I actually, I'm still in Chicago, but I actually moved to the north side, a neighborhood called Lakeview East, and that's just north of Lincoln Park. We all Lincoln Park is a very famous neighborhood in Chicago, but. Yeah. I just wanted to talk about the kind of my experience up here, especially concerning the uh, the dependability on the car, which actually there isn't that much dependency on the car because this is actually a very walkable area where I live, and that can be owed to how it's designed. And it's basically designed to be on a human scale. So you have a lot of mixed use property. You have these small streets where you have all these small businesses, a lot mixed in with some of the larger businesses that you don't you have you have stores such as Target and Walmart and a few other well-known stores. But the thing is, like, these are these were made to be accessible directly from the street, and not to the point where you have to go and park your car and end up and then have to walk like all the way out to have to walk all the way to the store and repeat the process going home. Because like definitely life feels a lot simpler over here because it's a lot more lively. And in some of these places, even like they have like for those because we had to, like, when we were moving here, like we obviously had to have the car because we had to move a bunch of stuff up here. But yeah, but even where I lived downtown, like there was also a lot of mixed use stuff. There was a lot more streets were a lot wider there, because it's obviously a lot more busier. But the streets here are a lot more narrow.
Yeah, and that was a sort of way they made cities back then. I mean, you look at older cities or you look at older parts of New York, there's very much narrower streets. The same thing with Chicago and places like that. But, it's a sort of development that really befits and benefits an urban area, which is what should be happening in urban areas. The issue is that this continued suburbanization continues this urban sprawl in which you don't have that necessary fixture of just focusing on developing the urban center and keeping the rural areas as a place of keeping it, not just rural, but also having, to keep it subsistence so you can be able to have that for agriculture and stuff like that. You don't have that in the United States as it used to be. So because this, again, suburban sprawl is very much, and we talked a bit about it, but, it's very much a symptom of the automobile culture, or very much the suburban is it can go both ways. You can blame the suburbs, you can blame the car, but ultimately they had to find a way to push the car, so the suburbs was the vehicle in which the car rode in order to go ahead and basically destroy urban and rural areas at the same time. Because like
exactly,
yeah, because sort of like the velomobile, the suburb is the velomobile of living. You get the worst of both worlds.
Right.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add in there?
Yeah. I still just get like, it just still just baffles me like how much we're still like trying to find solutions other than public transit, because obviously we're seeing like public transit being like how it's not safe around here because like, and that's definitely true to an extent, but I mean, the thing is, like, a lot of the times, like, we don't have like the resources we need to actually get get all this crime out of our off our buses and trains. And I mean Chicago's constantly pushing this see something say something, which is definitely can be attributed to what we have, kind of what should have been applied on that one attack that happened in New York.
Yeah.
It's like nobody was like taking action. Like, again, like you need to have that like sense of community to actually have people really do stuff about their city.
Yeah, and again, it's Chicago, and I'm glad you're living in your living situation is better off over there. But yeah, again, it's a problem to go when it comes to community. Everybody's been so atomized, and there's certainly other issues when it comes to Chicago and a lot of urban areas in the United States. But that's just the result of what we're dealing with in the United States, unfortunately, and it's very much an American issue. You don't really see that much crime in very other places in the United States. I mean, I'm sorry, in the world, not the United States. But yeah, it's very much an urban problem in the United States. All right. Anything else you want to say? I think we're right on the dot here for time.
Yeah, I think I've said pretty much everything I needed to say there. Just wanna give an update. I just kind of want to not try to turn a blind eye to the suburban world, given where I live, because it's like I think like everybody should be living in a place like this.
Yeah, no, I honestly agree. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah. And again, it's like what we mentioned before. It's not just about the fancy trains or the streetcars or anything like that. You can't just put trains everywhere and expect things to work, right? It's a whole system of changing, in a sense, rolling back the clock, because this stuff worked, and this stuff was how the United States worked back then, of having a mixed-use transportation system of mixed cities. Okay, the cities were the cities, and the rural areas were rural. Okay, if you want to live in a city, you can live in a city. If you want to live in a rural area and have your car and have your land, absolutely. In fact, I'm at this point, I'm more trying to get over to a rural area at this point. The way cities are going in America, it's going to get worse before it gets better in most places. But regardless, this is something about having choice, having the choice. That is the true freedom that America stood for, not being stuck in a cage to go ahead and wage slave. All right, so let's go ahead and have David Mitchell. He is on board again. Everybody, 5 minutes to speak. 5 minutes to speak. I know we've made this a long stream, but we're trying to make this sort of timely. Alrighty, David.
I'm gonna clock this.
Hey, Ruben, thank you for letting Dimitri know that we were waiting, because I aptly commented that, letting everybody in chat know we were waiting.
I know. I apologize, guys. I just had to get the points out there. How I am. I know. Sort of pontificate.
Demo, you remember the last guy from last live stream? The last guy that was on who would talk about like small passenger rail system in like small city across the U.S., like up in Sioux City, up in South Dakota.
Yeah, like in the Dakotas and Montana and places like that. Yes, I remember.
I got thinking about that. That could work here in my home city of Charleston, like Charleston to Summerville, South Carolina, because we got a population here of 100,000, with a big enough capacity for it. And Ruben, how you would talk about the tunnel born, like building a subway underground right there in your country. I would think with the tunnel born, how they freeze the ground to build the tunnel.
Yeah.
I would think about it. Commenting that that could work here in Charleston, because we got soft ground, like down in Florida, because we're on the coast. I'm in Charleston. And I would think about like doing a commuter rail system that have to go underground in downtown Charleston, because the whole peninsula is so dense with a development, not suburbs development, but with city development. Something like that is going to have to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we can't go above ground like high rise, because let's be honest, we got NIMBYs here, saying, oh, we're going to ruin our city skyline, when they want to build parking garages left and right and hotels.
I see where you're getting. Hey, you're still gonna have people complain no matter what. The NIMBYs are gonna be there and do their NIMBY things. That's always the issue of especially digging underground, especially for a place of 100,000 people. It's not really needed. You're kind of going overboard in order to go ahead and serve that need and purpose to build public transit underground in that area. But it's also an added cost and a lot more permitting that you have to get, unfortunately.
Well, the thing is that even though 100,000, like we have 100,000 in population, if you factor in the tourists, that almost 500,000 because of tourists. Because we are a very historic city, and we get almost in 1 month about 2 million tourists in 1 month. And in a given day, we can have over 500,000 in the city.
That's a lot of people. But the thing is with TBMs, tunnel boring machines, and freezing ground, you should know that that technique is also very, very, very expensive.
Yeah,
it's
it's stupidly expensive that it's only been used very few times.
If you want to build tunnels, you're gonna be so much better off with cut and cover. That's gonna be cheaper because TBM freezing ground techniques only work when you have to go through very sensitive areas. I'm talking about historical downtowns, constructions that are not that good to destroy and then rebuild again. I'm talking about
that's what I was talking about here in Charlton, because some of our buildings are almost 200 years old.
Yeah, but the thing is also with building tunnels, as Demetrius said, you gotta make we call this a kostenbaatanalyse in Dutch, or it's gonna be a good solution to build a tunnel because
a cost benefit analysis. Is it worth the cost in order to benefit all these people and to move that amount of people that you're thinking? Something like that. I mean, honestly, I don't know the history of your area, but I'm pretty sure back then it must have had. Yeah, I think Charleston did have a streetcar system.
It did, because there is one building right where under the Arthur Ravenel Bridge remaining that was the trolley car set. That building still remains. Like, you can look at the concrete and you can see where the trolley cart rail used to stick out.
Yeah, so again, I honestly say just rebuild. Like Tampa did it. Tampa used to have a very extent. It's like it had like 54 miles of streetcars. Now it has maybe 5 or 7 miles back now of streetcars. They started rebuilding it back in the 90s, and they really haven't really built back on top of that. But that sort of thing works in downtowns. Again, if they stick at that.
I know, but the reason why I brought it up, because they've been for years talking about like a commuter rail system from Charleston to Somerville with 27 miles. And I was thinking about Tex Rail in Texas. You know Tex Rail, that little commuter rail system in Texas that have those those Siemens locomotives?
Yep.
I was thinking about something like that could work here in Charlton, like have the train coming from downtown Charlton, from under where the college of Charleston is, because they could start the construction with the station under the college.
Oh, they've also have interurbans that also have serve that purpose, that they can run on both the trolley lines, the streetcar lines, and also run as a sort of interurban rail system in between two areas that are, like you said, 27, 30, 40, 50 miles away from each other. So that's something that's very simple to do.
Yeah.
Or it has been.
David, we're getting short on time, but you're talking about a very interesting system. You know what you should look into? You will like this. Do you know the German city of Karlsruhe?
Oh yeah, I haven't thought about that because that city had the same population as Charleston, and it got me thinking.
Yeah, so you can have this, you don't have to build a tunnel, but you basically can use, the train lines, and then you get to Charleston, and then you can basically switch over to being a streetcar and then run into the streets. That's how the system in Karlsruhe works.
Well, I also thought about another plan that was coming from the port, because we have a cruise ship terminal right there in the historic district that have old tracks that have not been used, that we can run trains from where the cruise ship terminal is, like to make it a multi-use terminal.
All right. I again, David, I really do appreciate it. I think it's something that definitely does need thought, but we are running out of time though. I do thank you for coming on though. I do appreciate it.
Before I go,
Last thing, go ahead.
You know, Alan Fretler really drilled into real life lore video. He really tore into that video. I'll be honest about that.
I'm sorry. Which one?
You remember Alan Fletcher, the one that did We Need to Change Our Due Date Shipping video?
Oh yes, that one. Yes.
He really tore into real life lore video about the California High Speed Rail thing.
Yeah.
To the point where he actually had to re-upload the video, but here, Dane, he still screwed up with the re-upload. Real life lore still screwed up.
Yeah, well, that's something. Maybe we'll start getting involved with some banter and back and forth with some channels. Honestly, we need to start building a better coalition and getting more active. But that's something we have to do. Again,
yeah,
David.
I agree.
Yeah, I know, certainly agree, and that's something that's I gotta start helping, and we can all start going along together. But thank you so much, David, for coming along. I do appreciate you coming on board.
Always been a pleasure, man.
All
have a
right.
nice night.
You too. Okay, so going down the list, we have a lot of people here to speak, so we'll go down with everybody here. We'll give, again, 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes, okay? We're trying to keep everything on time here. Alrighty,
All right.
Aegis, you have been invited to speak. Welcome aboard.
Hello there.
Alrighty, welcome aboard, man.
Alright. Well, 12 years in the making. I am finally graduated from the public school system.
Yeah.
At long last.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah. It's been a weird week.
All right.
Yeah.
Being graduated, like you kind of know the feeling. Like you don't know what you need to do in the life. Like you have to go off to college or trade school. About to go into your new job. It's like it's a little period of limbo. Like, what do I do with myself? Like to keep because you discover what happens when you don't do anything. You just get bored all the time.
Yeah, I understand, man. And look, I appreciate it that you're coming to us with this sort of trying to figure out an existential sort of question, but we're trying to keep things here on time. We're trying to keep things on the subject. But I'll definitely be glad to talk to you more about this later on.
Yeah, it's gotta be like a little less the pomp and circumstance right now. But so I'm coming in with a little thing. So anybody who's been up in DC knows that there's CSX at this little Pope's Creek subdivision that's basically on its last leg because Morgantown Generating Station is just closed now. So recently, Southern Maryland is planning to do a light rail line from Branch Avenue into this outer suburb of Waldorf, Charles County. So they're going to be connecting up with Joint Base Andrews, it's basically they're trying to make another purple line.
Right.
If you know how bad the purple line's been managed lately.
Yeah, no, I've seen some of the articles about that. Yeah.
Purple line,
There's
that's my
4
territory.
stories about that.
I mean,
You still there?
Aegis,
are you there? Going once?
I'm still here.
All right. Okay.
I'm still here.
All right.
Here. So, right now, we have this. I'm just very concerned about this project. Like, I'm not trying to sound like an overarching NIMBY, but like, this project could be managed so much better. Like, it could be like this whole regional rail type of thing, and it should be integrated with MARC. It should be like this. If you're going to do the light rail, make it like the Carlsbad style tram train system.
Are there any commission meetings or DOT meetings in the area concerning that project as a subject that you can be able to attend?
currently there hasn't been any on the news, but I'm planning to write like an opinion article.
Yeah, definitely. I would say do something like that. Like I've said, we as a generation, I'll just lump us millennials and Zoomers together in here because we're all kind of stuck in the same boat. But as it comes to this, at least what you can do is just at least do something vocal about it. Get there to a town hall meeting or something about the project. Let your voice known, get some friends along with you, be respectful, get in there and talk to them about it, and see, maybe you can change someone's mind, because it has happened that you can be able to get somebody that is interested in at least keeping correspondence with you. That's something that you can do, honestly. Especially now with, in today's world with, in the post-COOF world, they have a lot of these meetings now available that you can attend through online. So you don't even have to leave your house. I mean, you can, not wear clothes. I mean, you don't have to be like, the Italian Senate, but you can definitely, attend these meetings online. Yeah. No Final Fantasy characters in the meetings, please.
Yeah, no cat pictures, no cat emotes or whatever.
Yeah, and please, to the love of God, no furries at all. No, this is a furry-free zone. But anyway,
yeah. Someone hired a broadcaster, please. But anyway, so yeah. So here's the thing I keep harping on about. Like, have you really looked into anything from pedestrian observations? Like, I know, like back of August, late August of last year, like I did invite you to go up to the whole, this whole big virtual meeting with like all the transit people who want to try changing the world, like the big head honchos, the big stars of the show.
Yeah, last August I was not in a good place, man. But there is something, hopefully if something else available comes up, I'll definitely now more open to going ahead and attending these things. And I know in the last year or so, I've been very much out of it in terms of getting involved with that, for obvious reasons. But I'm getting back there now. I could say officially that I'm ready and to go and get things moving along. So that's definitely something there. Okay, we are past time. Any last words you want to go ahead and put out there?
Well, really nothing, but I just say, like, hope everybody here has, like, who's out of school has a good summer. Don't get into trouble. Don't do anything stupid.
Yep.
Don't be on the news unless it's good.
Yeah. The less you're, let's put it this way: if you're not on the news, that's a good thing. Okay, I wouldn't say the less you're on the news, because if you're on the news, it's not for most likely a good thing.
Literally, someone like. At literally my high school, like the last the last week I was not there. Figures out like early one week, and this newbie teacher that I have.
All right, Aegis, we're out of time, man. I understand. I appreciate it, the story, but unfortunately we're gonna have to move on.
You don't want to know what happened.
No worries, man, and we're probably not gonna know right now. But I appreciate you coming on board.
Yeah. Better knowing if you don't.
Take care. All right. And again, guys, let's try to keep it to it's kind of a privilege because we're like one of the only few live streams that does this, and we bring people on. But enjoy it now, because if we start growing, and hopefully we do, but we're not going to be able to do this as much. So we'll I'm not saying anything, but we are trying to keep this as an open club. That's what I'm saying. All right. Ruben, do you know who was next over here? Because it was like 4 more people.
Yeah, I made a list. So who was just online? It was Aegis. So next one is Renell.
All right, bring him on.
All right, Renell, you're on. Well, Renell, you gotta accept the invitation before you can speak.
All right, Renell Reed, you're on board. Okay. Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Hoping I wasn't too late to the punch.
No, we've been late ourselves. Not to worry. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. How are you doing, Demetrius?
Hanging in there as usual, man. So anything you want to talk about here or discuss about the stream or anything?
Yep. I'm gonna kind of tie into your video about why, how it's kind of on subject, but the video about how things cost way more in America to build and how it's slower.
Yeah.
Tying into like there's people that complain about the Baltimore Tunnel project, but if it's anything to do with highways or roads, there is no NIMBYs.
Yeah, it's very much, hypocritical that they go mute whenever there's anything about extremely expensive and constant road projects, but whenever there's just, one little streetcar or one little railroad, passenger road project
like
here or there.
High-speed rail.
Yeah, they freak out. Like what's going on with, right now, I would say in the DC Baltimore area with the Maglev project, which I haven't kept up with in the last several months, but there's been a lot of contention against it, for the same reasons. Anytime there's a train, everybody freaks out. Anytime there's a roadway that's going to plow through a whole bunch of houses and stuff like that, nobody bats an eye.
They even freaked out about Brightline, even though it's not a government thing like California.
Yeah, and we were very much involved in that. I still remember that, and I showed again some of the videos. Again, it's very much it's less to do with an economic difference in terms of who's for and against, or even less to do with a political stance, because there's a lot of both Republicans and Democrats on both sides of the aisle, or conservatives and liberals, that very much agree with having high-speed rail. It is very much, and this is something can be proven, it's very much a generational problem. It's very much that the older generation does not want trains, and it's very much that the younger generation wants trains. It's what it is.
Down in Miami, where I think they're building that new bridge or something. I don't think anybody's batting an eye, not even the media.
On which bridge?
That's going to have the double arch thing.
Are you talking about the one in Ives Dairy or US 1?
The signature bridge.
Okay, the signature bridge. Yeah, they've been talking about that for a while. But yeah, it's they'll go ahead and build that, but to go ahead and, let's say, since the 80s, talking about building a monorail or something to connect the east and west, because that's what they were trying to do, at least to connect the mainland and the beach area. It's been talked about for such a long time, to the point that they even had what is called down there the ghost platform. There was a platform in the Miami-Dade office, not the mayor's office, it is the mayor's office, but the government center. It's right there at the Miami-Dade government center, and it was supposed to be going to the beach, but it's just still there. It's been there for the last 30 years. So that's sort of the problem. To get those projects, it takes a long time. It takes so much permitting, but to go ahead and build a roadway, they can go ahead and get all that right through.
I was in New York City like a couple weeks ago, and you really don't need a car there. Actually, it's very car, but it's also there's a big train culture of getting places.
Right, it's one of the few cities that remains so, and because of the subway, more or less, even though it's subpar compared to the rest of the world, but you still have it there, so that's at least a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Chicago, they have the L trains there too.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add onto here? Getting into the 5-minute mark real quick.
Wishing Brightline the best of luck when they hit Orlando. I saw something there. They want to be there by Christmas time.
Yep, Christmas time is what they're planning to. It can definitely happen. They already have it set up and ready to go. It's just a matter of if and when they want to go ahead and just start those trains. But more of a matter of when.
I mean, as a European, I gotta say, when someone says we're gonna do something by Christmas, I I get certain flashbacks.
Yeah, but more or less, not the good sort of flashbacks, but I get what you're saying, man. Alrighty.
I'll also say that when the private sector they don't play around. They go quickly. Then they're not going to dilly dally like Amtrak or California.
Yeah, in general, at least when it comes to rail, I mean, there are some sections of the private sector, depending on the industry, that will go ahead and take their time because it is financially beneficial for them to go ahead and keep things at a slower pace for just keeping the status quo. Like the oil companies, right? They're not going to move when it comes to anything. They're raking in the money now, but that's what it is. Alrighty, man. But I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your experience in New York and everything.
Whereas PCR hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah, we'll talk about Texas Central Rail hopefully when we get any news about the Supreme Court status, because that hasn't come in anywhere. But anyway, thank you for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
You too.
Alrighty. Okay. We have about 3 more callers on here. We will go ahead and go through all the callers. We've been having a long show. Why not, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, so next one is Siamil. Anyway, you're up.
Siami, or we'll figure it out.
Hello. Can you hear me? Because my internet and my microphone is probably a bit crap actually.
No, we can actually hear you loud and clear, man.
So good morning. I actually from Malaysia actually. It's gonna be 11:10 a.m.
Okay.
So I am currently studying my degree in Penang, and since I live in Kuala Lumpur, I usually took a train KTM ETS, which is alright actually because it's around $10 to travel around 200 miles. And I feel like in my country, for example, there was a planned high-speed rail from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore, but due to political shenanigans, to be honest, it been cancelled, and right now we have no idea what happened. So right now our only project is the one from Kuala Lumpur to the East Coast. So for me, when I see America's railway it's fine, to be honest, but there could be improvement.
Yeah, and I remember covering the Singapore to Kuala Lumpur high-speed rail line a couple of years ago, and that was mostly to do with the political tension that China was the one that was really planning to go on there versus the Japanese procurement that was trying to go. I mean, it could have gone either way. It's just sad that it went down either way. I mean, from my point of view, it probably would have been better to go with the Japanese system, but that's just what it is. Both politically and from a standpoint of just it's a better system, honestly. But it's what it is. But yeah, I mean, at least in the United States there are things moving, and we do sometimes take it for granted, whereas in other countries, like where you are in Southeast Asia and some other places, they're just starting now to get things moving forward. Some countries have been able to move a lot quicker when it comes to transit. Like, for example, Singapore has a very robust metro system. And in places like Kuala Lumpur, I think they do have is like a bus rapid or some metro lines that they do have available in there.
They have an LRT, which is a bit weird because, especially when compared to Singapore, in which their LRT is actually just a BRT. So when there was a project from JB to Singapore, when the last government decided to downgrade from an mass rapid transit to a light rapid transit, there was some kerfuffle because our definition of LRT and Singapore definition of LRT are completely different. Since our definition of LRT is more like their own version of MRT with the Jurong region line, as far as I know. So, but as far as I know, our transit is moving progressively with the two projects. The one, as I mentioned before, from JB to Singapore, and the one that currently starting right now with the MRT line 3, that is the Circle Line around KL. So hopefully our transit will be fine.
Right.
Okay.
All right, man. Well,
so thank you so much, and I see you. To be honest, I see you. I actually watched your videos for a very long time. Only now I could able to join this club, and in fact, I was actually quite free. I have my free time, so probably the next time I will talk probably around 2030, but still probably still faster than the California High Speed Rail.
oh yeah, that definitely. I think that's a given at this point. I mean, it's more of an issue
so
of
much.
in this century or not. Yeah, but thank you for coming on. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Alrighty, so yeah, that's just goes to show you that we are a pretty international audience over here, but at least it goes to show people that we are moving forward. Yeah, there are some things that are really about to fall apart, but it's gonna fall apart everywhere, unfortunately. But at least some places, at least here in the United States, we are moving forward in some things. Whereas there are some places in the world that aren't moving as far forward as they want to. But it's what it is. All right. Who's next over here?
All right. So the next one is Ivan, PRT, and
alrighty,
transportation guy. You're up, Ivan.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Ivan, good to see you. Welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Answer somebody's question earlier about city design and transportation. You've got city design has a big part in how transportation is laid out or used in a city. And if you look at transportation, we've had like horse car lines starting in the 1850s here in Southern California. Later they switched over to some cable cars systems in downtown Los Angeles, and around the same time period they had the electric streetcar into urban, with the invention of using electricity for railways back in Washington D.C. and that took off, and a lot of your cities had horse car lines by the 1890s throughout most of the United States and Canada, and then you had some cable car lines in some of the major cities like Chicago, LA, San Francisco, etc. And then when the electricity came along, then everybody switched to that because it was more cost effective. And that's what really took off in the early 1900s to about basically the 1920s and 30s for transportation. And then of course the cars came along, about 1910, 1915, and 1920 is when they really started taking off and making it difficult for transport other forms, streetcars and stuff to get around. But if you look at the city design, I mean, we have like new urbanism, we have transit-oriented development, and other things that, and part of it also has to do with zoning. You look at the zoning, out here in Southern California versus some of the older cities where there's more mixed-use development, transit-oriented development in those streetcar suburbs. Back in the day, there's still today. There's a big difference in how things are being done. And out here in Southern California, I live up near Victorville, and I'm out in the countryside, so it's like public transit ain't going to happen where I'm currently at. That's why I'm out of my house and moving, downsizing to a tiny house on wheels so I can pretty much live wherever I want. But for the majority of the public, I mean, we have like Metrolink for regional rail or commuter rail for like LA, Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside, and San Diego. But going from LA to Vegas, there's nothing. You either fly or you have to drive. Brightline is coming along, Brightline West, and they're having to deal with environmentalists. So we had a highway that was supposed to go from Victorville to Palmdale, and that got killed. That would have helped a lot with the traffic situation out here, but they had some environmental groups that fought that and basically killed the highway project. There's some environmental groups right now fighting the Brightline West project because they're concerned about bighorn sheep and mountain lions crossing the highways and the high-speed rail trains and getting killed by the trains. So they want to do a wildlife bridge at 2 or 3 different places along the way, different points along the rail line to have, kind of like what they're doing for freeways, for wildlife bridges. So the wildlife can go over, they can kind of direct the wildlife to take these bridges to get over, the freeways and the rail lines to get to the other side and other natural areas.
Yeah, and it's pretty silly when overall rail is just a lot more environmentally friendly, especially for this project that Brightline is going to do. It's going to be fully electric. There shouldn't be any complaints whatsoever environmentally. It's a given and it's logical of what's better.
When they were looking at doing this maglev train about 10, 15 years ago, which was going to do the exact same route, basically from LA to San Bernardino up through the high desert to Vegas. At least the maglev can handle a steeper grade. They can handle it to about 15%, 20% grade with the technology, versus high-speed rail line can do I think it's maximum either 2% or 4%.
Yeah, it's a 2% grade.
And so it's like the states and stuff are looking at this technology instead of looking ahead and going, you know what, maybe we should use something else that actually can handle the grades for the type of environment that we have. And Los Angeles has been doing a lot with transit-oriented development and all that, but which is fine and dandy. But there's still a lot of areas that are severely underserved in Southern California, especially once you get outside the city. Just because of the way the development process is throughout Southern California. There's a lot of single-family home development. And that's what the only thing they zone for. So it's like you basically have to use the car to get around, because if you try to take a bus, a lot of places, you either don't go near where you want to go.
No, I've definitely.
It takes 3 or 5 times more time to get where you need to go. But as for Brightline up west, I'm rooting for them, But I'm a guy. I look at stuff and go, they could have done an elevated monorail system. No problem. All the wildlife can go underneath, pass through, no problem. It's the same thing with monorail. Elevated transportation.
Yeah.
BRT, etc.
No, and I agree. That sort of stuff was very much the way of the future back in even 50 60 years ago. That's what everybody was looking for and thinking. Sort of Jetsons type of stuff. When Disney was pushing out the monorail and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, it fell out of favor because not too many people were using it, and the cost wasn't there. It's sort of the same thing like what happened to the Concorde, because there wasn't as much usage in there. There wasn't enough demand for parts and for construction.
There was also politics.
Yeah, and definitely the politics was the first thing that got into there and really kneecapped at the beginning. But you're absolutely right. It's I for some reason I've been referencing it as coding and the code laws. It's zoning. I don't know why I got that wrong, but yeah, definitely it's a zoning that doesn't allow for mixed usage or for just single family homes in suburban sprawl 20, 30 miles outside of a city center, which that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how the builders are doing out here. They just keep building single family housing everywhere.
And the sad thing is that those houses aren't going to be even built up to last that long. They'll just go ahead and keep the projects going on. They'll be mostly empty, which there's a lot of houses that are empty here in the United States. Most of them are, just either just for investing purposes and to flip them. That's basically all it is.
Yeah.
All right, but
I'm a multi-mode transportation guy. I've worked in the electric vehicle field for 26 years, electric cars, and I even recognize that electric cars aren't going to be our one-stop shot to deal with transportation issues, because they don't solve the traffic congestion problem.
Yeah. It just solves one part of the oil problem, but even then the oil companies are very much the ones that are like we've mentioned before. They're the ones pushing for alternatives, which they're just keeping alternatives as just their hold on line to just keep the oil grift going on. And while they're pushing and literally funding all these green type companies like Greenpeace and Sierra Club in order to really push away actual true solutions for electricity. So they'll the electric cars will be there, but those stations and the substations and the electricity generation will be coming from oil still, so that doesn't solve anything.
Well, like out here where I live in the high desert, I have solar on my house. I have a charging setup for an electric car.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Solar is a heck of a lot better for somebody else to go ahead and put on, rather than just having a whole bunch of solar panels in a massive area, and doing it that way. If everybody were to have their own solar panel, it would be a lot easier. If it's available and it's not as expensive or out of your reach.
Well, that's what California has required for new housing construction in the last couple of years. They've signed bills into law requiring all new housing that's being built to have, or about 90% of new housing built to have solar installed.
Yeah, definitely.
The house. But as from a transportation standpoint, I think multi-mode is a way to go, and everybody just needs to coordinate with everybody on to make sure transportation works for everybody, because. What's the point of having transportation if they won't have, transportation that gets people where they want to go? I mean, you can take a high-speed rail from one big city to another big city, which is basically the main reason for high-speed rail. And, but basically at each end they need transportation to get to their last mile destination.
Right.
However mode that may be, whether it's Uber, Lyft, bus, bicycle, rental car, or whatever.
Exactly.
Or forms of transit, and I think PRT and monorail would be, would really help with that, especially at the last mile and within the big cities themselves or regional areas. High-speed rail is really good from point A to point B for the longer regional long distance, and then you have other different types of transportation that can fill within those areas in between.
I do agree. Definitely with that. Ivan, we are running out of time there.
No problem.
That's
all.
Not a problem. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Well, thank you.
Not a problem.
Ciao.
Yes. Have a great day.
Okay.
You too, man.
All right, and the last one in the audience is Lumpy. We will invite you to speak, and that'll be the last one for the night for the calls.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing all right. How about you?
Fine.
Great, a long-time subscriber, and thanks for taking the opportunity to talk with some fans. But,
not a problem. Welcome aboard.
So my question tonight may be a little bit larger scope than outside of America, but my background is I became having a fascination with kind of urbanism when I worked in China for a period of time from 2018 to January of 2020, and what I'm curious on is on your thoughts on when will kind of large scale tourism kind of be coming back, at least do you think it will come back and to the scales that it was in 2019 and prior in the before times, I guess you could say?
It will come back eventually, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, definitely the whole thing of the coof has mostly gone ahead and gone. I mean, you'll probably see that one or two people, especially around here in Indianapolis or in most other urban areas, you'll see the one or two people that still want to keep wearing a mask, but everybody else has already gone and done with it, honestly. In terms of the tourism, it's very much more now on an economic basis. No, people don't have that much available capital anymore to really go and travel, which is kind of sad, and it's kind of kneecap really the let's say projects like Brightline and all of a sudden, because if Brightline was going on in a let's say in a coofless world where it never happened in an alternative timeline, then I wouldn't be worried about the amount of tourists on there. I mean, it will still be a fantastic project, but I don't see it coming along, mainly because of the incoming depression. It's not going to be a recession, it's going to be a depression. Because I know there's some people that, like, it was like one guy in the World Economic Forum, Rosenstein or something like that, I don't know, definitely an economic name, saying that, don't say the R word, don't say recession. No, I'm going to say depression, okay? It's been a long time coming, and it's been just building up to one. So that's definitely going to hit into the cycle. There will be places that will do better off more than others. Probably places like Florida, because of Florida's doing whatever it can to disconnect itself from the rest of the contiguous United States. And
well, that's the whole concept of the K-shaped recovery. You know, that some states will improve drastically and others will be in that depression.
Most likely, yes. But in terms of that, in a macroeconomic scale, because of that, we're just going to see this go through, and it's probably going to take, if by 2030, sort of back to normalcy, because it's not just the economic factors, it's also the other outside factors like war and stuff like that, those black swan events that come through like we've been seeing right now. I think that what's going on in Europe is going to spread at some point or another, because either one side or the other it wants to let it go. So it's going to blow up into a larger situation at some point, which will affect the rest of the world. I mean, it's already affecting us over here. We've already sent $40 billion. Those Stinger missiles. I mean, not the Stinger missiles, but all those javelins will probably end up like they have been on the black market online for another $30,000, like we've been seeing. But it's just what's been going on right now, unfortunately. But
from a political perspective, do you think that many of these governments and other NGOs are interested in not allowing tourism to reflourish? As a dirty unvaccinated, there's still many countries that are impose very, very, very harsh restrictions and outrageous quarantine requirements that basically make it financially impossible to travel to many places.
Right. I don't think it's a conspiracy to keep people out. It's really much more to do with how much control we can keep, because it's... The thing about the COOF crisis is that it's allowed governments in order to exercise a full amount of control with emergency powers and stuff like that. I mean, even just recently in the state of Indiana, they just, now after everything is said and done, they've ruled that, emergency powers are unconstitutional. You can't do it again.
Sure.
It's already too late, but that's just one place. In the rest of the world, they've still kept it. I mean, there's, look at what's going on still now in China. They're still putting people in camps and stuff like that. Right. If you have even a little bit of temperature or whatnot. So,
and that's an area that I'm very close to in terms of kind of where they're at in terms of allowing people back into the country, and that's something that I can't imagine is they're going to open up at least in the next 2 years. So I guess I'm wondering, what is the end game of, just let's use China specifically, to basically not allowing any people into the country, any foreigners into the country?
Control. That's what it is. It goes to control, because they can be, if you can move. And it's sort of where we've gone with the car. If you can control the way that people move, you can control essentially what they do, how they interact, and how they move with people. So controlling the movement of people controls the way that a country functions. So that's sort of what they're doing. And it's not just controlling movement, but movement of thought. And, that's why that heavy censorship in China. But that's sort of the reason why they're doing what they're doing. Will we see, we are seeing places that have more than others are getting back. Like, you have the people who, like, let's say in California and other places that have, or in New York that have put in massive restrictions, all of a sudden turn up in Florida and they're partying after telling everybody else to mask up, take, 300,000 jabs, and then maybe you can go outside. Only for then a week later to be, drinking in Miami. Like, what was it? I think it was AOC who was caught doing that.
Was in Miami.
Yeah, fun for me, but none for thee, basically. So yeah, that's. We'll see some places get back up.
One more question, if you guys have time. I don't want to run over, but
last one because we are over time.
All right, are you familiar with the writings of James Kunstler and Geography of Nowhere and all his kind of famous books from the 90s? He had a famous TED Talk kind of talking about urbanism and all that, but basically...
I am familiar with him, but I just can't remember some of those points right now.
Sure. Okay, so I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of peak oil then?
Yes.
Okay, so he was the one that kind of popularized that term, but 20 years on since he kind of popularized that term, do you think that is still an accurate that's an accurate predictor of the future, that we will be in a peak oil scenario, or basically do we just have enough supply hypothetically in the ground that it's basically these political forces that are going to force us out of cars and just less movement in general, or do you think it is truly a we're out of oil scenario?
No, it's definitely the latter. There's definitely enough oil out there. I don't think it's something that we should be depending on all the time. We should be definitely diversifying in all sorts of different ways. But I wouldn't say there's peak oil at all. That's definitely something that's been pushed along. Very much to the same thing like in the 1970s that they were pushing for global cooling in terms of change, and now then it changed into global warming, and now it's climate change. Again, it goes back into that same sort of control. And the ones who are at the knobs and the wheels of saying this all kind of sort of pushing the whole concept of peak oil now has been the oil companies to sort of induce this. So we're running out of supply, so we have to push demand, which is what got us into this, just in the short term, this situation right now, because supply dropped off back in 2020 with the spat between OPEC and Russia in terms of oil supply and that black swan event, to now what's going on currently with the supply has not caught up to the amount of demand that has bounced back.
Right. And one thing that's difficult for me, I have a certain amount of cognitive dissonance with. On one hand, I really, really strongly disagree with the whole popular climate change movement and what their views are. Basically that a top-down government system is the only way to save the world. But on the other hand, obviously I'm very, very, very passionate about walkable cities and all of that, and ending automobile dependency. For basically that also getting people into public transportation is good for the environment, but I also think that I guess I'm rambling a little bit, but do you kind of understand what I mean by cognitive dissonance?
I completely understand. Like I've said before, it's definitely our generation sort of thinks in that way that and I'm very environmentally head on too, and I would love to go ahead and do much more for the environment, but it's really the government is the one that's pushing it to not really have stuff for the environment. They're taking it from a top down approach when it has always been a bottom up approach to the environment. You didn't have to have all these permits in order to go ahead and have your own water or have your own electricity or be your own self-dependent sort of person. I mean, even let's say the coding laws over here for having chickens in Indianapolis. There's some place where you don't even have that, but we're capped over here to 12. Or something like that. It's just that sort of thing that it makes you dependent on the system is what they're trying to do. That's what it is. But again, like I said, there are a lot of us, in the right wing that are very much, and most of us are for having, rail. And there's a lot of people here on the left wing that are very much for rail. It's very much a difference between generations. That's what it is.
Sure. It's so true though that definitely I describe myself as very, very, very libertarian, but I find especially in these these circles of people that care about new urbanism and city planning and all that, very, very, very far left people, and I think something that's so profound that I wish more of these people on the other side of the spectrum would understand is that a walkable world, an environmentally friendly world is possible without government.
Yes.
And it's almost only going to be possible without government.
Yeah, and it is a free one. Well, I mean, you're always going to have that sort of sense of government there. I mean, since you mentioned that you are a libertarian, I mean, if you're familiar with the writings of Hans Hermann Hoppe, definitely a good read would be Democracy, the God That Failed. Just more or less, because you're always going to have government, right? And I would say take it from from my perspective, I've kind of moved on from the libertarian stuff years ago. But I would say you're always going to government is going to be there because if from a theological perspective, people always look up to God, or God comes down to people. So in that sense, you're always going to have principalities and royalties or some sort of order and system, right? So
I'll definitely concede that there is always a certain amount of, I guess, unrealistic, unrealistic part of the libertarian movement that certain things are just not.
Yeah,
possible.
look, you're not gonna have an anarcho-capitalist freedom system. That's not gonna happen.
As long as you don't talk about the age of consent, everything is fine.
Oh, for God's sake, no. I know we're on Discord, guys, but don't bring that crap into the server. No.
Yeah. But you guys are the moderators, so don't look at me.
Yeah, no, we're keeping this down. I'm definitely gonna be monarch of this channel. Okay, there's not going to be any sort of talk. There's not going to be any sort of degeneracy or anything like that. The Facebook group has kind of gone off in its own sort of thing, and we'll keep that little sort of freedom there. But Discord is going to be different.
Well, anyway, guys, I appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate it. I know it went a little long, but it was very interesting topics that you brought up. Honestly,
we should do this more often, and I just want to wish everyone else, have a great evening, have a good week.
I appreciate
Take care,
it,
guys.
Take care, and thank you for coming on board.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So that was the last person that we had on here. There is a Stephen on here, but unfortunately that was it for the call, since we are past. I was trying to cut it off at 11:30, but we're now at 11:39. And I'm surprised that there's still enough people here in the viewing here, at least on the East Coast. For you guys on the West Coast, certainly it's a lot better for you. For that one Belgian guy over in Europe, I'm sorry that we're at like 5:40 over here in terms of time.
It's 5:40 in the morning.
Yeah, but I mean, you're gonna be okay, right?
I mean, it's okay. I've only slept. I was doing an all-nighter. Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's. We'll catch up at some point. My sleep schedule has just been off since I've been working from home. I mean, it gives me a little bit more freedom to do stuff and here and there, but it's not the best thing. But anyway,
the things we gotta sacrifice for the arc.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add onto here, Ruben? I'm gonna probably look at the chat and see what there is.
Yeah, I thought about something like I forgot his name. He's now named Cool Friend on Discord. So anyway, I was just thinking about that he said that urbanism is mostly dominated by extreme left wings. My political preference, I am quite conservative, but I'm just thinking about this. Like, if you have an idea, if you want to push for light rail, it's very important to not just say like, "Hey, we're libertarians, we're pro light rail." It's important to go with as broad possible form as possible. Just don't say, "Hey, we're libertarians," but find friends on the left wing, on the centrists, conservatives, progressives.
Yeah,
and just, have a fundamental agreement on we want light rail. And if you can present that, there's different groups saying we want light rail. The only discussions you're gonna have is about the implementation and where to put the stops, not about the idea itself, because you already pushed for the idea. So that's the thing. If you want something done, get as a big front as possible and just say, build it.
Yeah, and I think for for what we've had as a group, I mean, it's great that we have a lot of people from different political perspectives on here because we all agree on something. Because it honestly comes to this: we're looking for what makes logical sense and what works, right? And when it comes to at least what we're dealing with in terms of the infrastructure perspective, we're all in agreement over here. Now there's a whole lot of other different things that we're going to disagree on, and that's fine. That's going to be something else that's going to be outside the channel, and I'm not going to discuss it within the confines of the channel. All right, because I will go on. The only thing that I've gone on to is like in terms of. At least in this stream and a couple of others is talking about, the right to bear arms. That's, a piece of paper is not going to dictate whether you should be able to, defend yourself or not. But regardless, I think some people have been enjoying these streams. There's a guy here in the chat, Alonso Salas, this is a lit stream. Indeed it has. Ricardo Noel, I miss these long streams. Yeah, a lot of us, there are some people that do enjoy the long format streams. I do enjoy them because it gives us a lot of time to speak and be able to just give ideas off the cuff. But there's also a need for the longer format videos, which I have been trying to get back into. I got some of it filmed out now. Most of the script is done. I don't know. I just felt like there were some things that could have been filmed at least to get the thing going, but. That's just the way I'm playing it. But anyway, yeah. Let me see anything else here that's of interest to you, Ruben.
No, I'm just looking at the clock. I'm like, I'm slowly starting to feel tired. I just want to say one thing. Stephen Becker, yeah, you just missed the train, but don't worry. We're not Amtrak where we go like only once a year. You can always join the next stream, and if you are the first one, you will be the first one to talk.
Yeah, we will
So
have streams. I'm gonna try to make it a rule. I know for this one, I was coordinating with you, Ruben, to make sure that we had this right. But I'm trying to make it a rule, at least since now that I'm working from home, to try to have regular streams. I will probably put up a poll to see what best dates we want to get, regular streams going on, as well as if we're gonna have a stream, to announce it at least a little bit more than 24 hours before. I know there's some channels that can just pop up and have streams, but I don't want to do that to you guys. I think it should be that we should have it scheduled out in advance, to at least prepare everybody. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad there's a whole lot of more people joining into the stream. No, we're not going to have a 24 straight live stream. I know there's some channels that do that. I mean, heck, there's like... oh man, there's like one channel that keeps doing like 6-hour, 5-hour streams, and they're making a lot on super chats. But I'm not gonna do that. Which we haven't had, I guess, a super chat today, but that's fine. I'm trying to get a little bit here and there, but that's my own fault for not keeping coordinated and keeping things consistent with the channel. So I mean, I shouldn't be getting paid for anything if I'm not doing a good job at it. Okay, so let's at least keep libertarian with that perspective. If it's not a good service, you shouldn't pay. So I mean, I don't think, in my perspective, I've been doing a good service to you guys in terms of consistency. I know I've had a lot of terrible issues that have been plaguing and going on. I mean, there was at least that good point in like 2018 and 2019 when we just changed from High Speed Rail America Club to the American Rail Club, when things really started to pick up. I mean, we had the Shinkansen video and the Hyperloop video almost back to back. Those 100,000s of views, almost close to 2 million of views on the Shinkansen one. So I mean, yeah, that was when I was really in my groove, and Holly was really there helping me. Now. I guess, she's praying for me, and, hopefully I can get things back on track now again. But yeah, it takes time to get these things going, and to do all the research, especially for the video. Because, you guys, and Wendover does make good videos, okay? I'm not going to lie and say he doesn't make good videos. I disagree with a lot of things that he may put out there, and I disagree with the track that he's gotten to be just, sort of fence sitting in the middle, but that's just sort of his thing. I guess he just kind of gets out. But he's got a whole team of people, okay? You look on the description, you look on the credits, he's got a whole team of people. I'm sort of doing this myself, and again, that's my fault, okay, for pushing all of this on myself. So I'm going to do what I can. And we're starting to move there, to sort of going ahead and delegate and make this more of a club, okay? Because I don't want this to be just a me thing. This should not exist just for me, okay? Because if I, God forbid, get into a car crash tomorrow and don't make it at the other end of it, I don't want the club to disappear. So we gotta make things to be able to move along, that it's not just me, all right? So hanging in there. Which, by the way, I'm just putting it out there. I would never do anything to myself or anything like that, okay? As bad things have gotten, I'm never going to off myself or anything like that. So if it's anything, it's probably the airline or the oil companies that are trying to go after me, okay? So don't nobody there get worried. That's all I'm saying, all right? Putting it out there publicly. So I'm not gonna, not go Epstein myself or something. I don't know. But anyway. All right, guys. Shoot, where are we at here? Yeah, I think anything else? I'll give you the last word, Ruben.
Oh, big honor here. Yeah, no, I'm just fine to be back on the stream. It's interesting, and well, maybe if with videos I could always film here in Belgium, like if there are things you guys want to know about European perspective. Yeah, Star Force, that's a good idea. Can we have other club members host streams?
Yeah, sure. we should have that. Have other club members host streams. We'll start with that. Let's see. If you guys have other channels or something.
I mean, just can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, no, just thinking about the next stream. This is gonna be a bit crazy, but what would you guys think about if we would just do an open stage stream? Everyone is allowed, and we don't have a subject we talk about. You talk, you basically everyone here can decide the stream, and we're just moderators. Like, if you have an idea, join in and talk about it.
Yeah, we
that would
can-
be an interesting stream.
Actually, why don't we? I guess let's do that for the next stream. You know, let's get off going through the news, because it does get very, because I have at least 30 tabs open here just in this one window, and then 20 in the other. So I think that's a good idea. Let's do that for the next stream. Let's just have an open stream, just talk about transit. Maybe we can have some other YouTubers, transit YouTubers that want to chime on in and come on in. You know, maybe we'll make it an open invite. We'll try that. We're serious. There we go. We got good ideas going. Thank you, Star Force, for that. That's a good idea. So we'll have just something just small. You know, it's not a convention style or anything like that, or just an open meeting. Come on in. Let's talk, and let's have like a long ass stream and just talk about stuff, I guess, right? Yeah.
I mean, Alan Fisher, if you're listening, just give us a call and we can arrange something.
Yeah. Well, I'll think about it this week. I'll put it out in the community by Wednesday. Maybe we can try something like next weekend or something like that. Maybe on like a Saturday or Friday.
All right.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, there we go. All right, I think that's it for this stream, guys. I think we are heading down at the station. It is 11:50, almost Eastern Daylight Time over here in Indianapolis, Indiana, the crossroads of the World Railroad City. And also over there in Belgium, you have Ruben van Meegerow, the engineer for the club. We thank you all for coming on board on this stream of the American Rail Club. Thank you all for coming along and writing. We will see you all next time. Godspeed and take care. Good night.
Ciao.
And outro. There we go. It wasn't as smooth.